Hello, everybody, and welcome to the F1 podcast here on the Motorsport Magpie channel. We're finally here after about 16 months. It's took us long enough, but we're finally here. We are live on Twitch, so if you want to come and see our podcast live, feel free to, or you can just stay on the YouTube channel and watch them once I've finally got them uploaded. Alongside me on the podcast, as ever, will be Wajid. How are you doing, Wajid?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm excited for the season to start. It's not felt like a it's not felt like your typical preseason. It just feels like this. Just feels like the season is starting. The season start date just gets closer and closer every single year.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree with that. You know, it's a season that is always anticipated, and normally, I'll be honest, come on, F1 fails to deliver on what it anticipates every year. And something big happens. So we're going to hopefully build up some excitement. If you're wondering why I'm looking that way, that's my other screen on the other side of the office. So we'll be you'll see me looking over there a lot, but just bear with me. We will be talking F1, as you can see along the bottom. We've got musical chairs to talk about, which is Formula One when the winter stories, really, which we'll get into very shortly. The livery launches, they happened last week, and we're now on to testing in a few days' time. And we'll be explaining a little bit more of what we've got to come on this channel. And hopefully, touch wood, this goes well, and we'll be doing lots more. If it doesn't, bring back COD. That's going to be the way of it. We'll just bring back COD.
No pressure.
You know, we'll have to get Wajid to download COD, and we can actually play it and do some proxy chat. But no proxy chat on here.
I hate COD. Oh, I hate COD so much.
Okay, maybe we'll just have to play The Sims. Anyway,
I'm happy with that. Anyway, enough waffle.
Yeah,
let's
get into it, man. Let's get into the podcast. And first, we're going to have a look back at 2022. And as we say, seasons that didn't deliver. We started the season with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen going head-to-head in Bahrain, followed up by the same in Saudi Arabia. And we thought, here we go. What a season we're in for. And then we looked at the back of Max's rear wing for 15 races of the season. Looking back at 2022, Wajid, what's your overriding thought towards it?
The thing is, so F1 has this habit of when the cars get very close to each other, like they did in 2021, where after years and years and years of Merc domination, the field finally forget the dreaded Emirati country, which I will not name, like Voldemort. So, but the cars finally got closer to close together, and as always, F1 goes, let's make some new rules, new regulations, and this is what happens, which is one team with one engineer who has been in the sport for so long. He was originally in the sport with ground effect cars, was probably the only engineer in the sport with ground effect cars, knew how the rules work, and made the best car based on the rules for which he's already been in the sport with. And this is what happened. It was probably, for everyone who complained about the Merc domination period, at least you had a title battle between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. This, I don't think I have been so bored of the sport since the Ferrari domination period of the 2002 Ferrari car, because it was just the same vibe. The entire team has backed one driver. You knew there was not going to be any title. You knew there was going to be no title challenge from the teammate. It was going to literally be, this guy's winning and everyone else deal with it. And that's what happened. And do you know what? I'm not, obviously, fair play to Max, fair play to Red Bull. Fully deserved it. The problem is, the only thing entertaining about the season was all the controversy off the circuit and nothing to do on the circuit.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we had conversation. Let's put it this way: when we're not talking about racing, we talked about cakes.
Yeah, I remember we didn't talk about. I remember we didn't talk about cakes. We were talking about either Max, Christian, or Helmet doing
Yeah.
something that made everyone look like a helmet.
Well, that's one thing. If you have seen our podcast before, we're not Red Bull haters. Just throughout last season, they seem to do something or say something every weekend that we had to bring up. So hopefully that won't happen this year. You know, I mean, they've got Daniel Ricciardo in there. So we'll be just talking about whether Daniel Ricciardo is going to take over Sergio Perez's seat, probably. That'll probably be the general gist of it.
That genuinely feels like a when and not an if. It really does.
Well, we'll
But
certainly get into that.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, Ferrari, nightmare, I think. They had a really quick car and didn't really know how to pull off a strategy. You had Mercedes, pardon the pun, bouncing up and down the grid because they couldn't decide whether they're super quick or not. And by the looks of this season, they're going for a similar thing, but hopefully they understand it a little bit better. I personally would say McLaren and Alpine completely underwhelmed themselves last year. You know, Alpine had a really quick car and didn't really do a lot with it, and McLaren didn't have a quick car, moved forward, and then sort of stalled.
I think everyone is surprised at McLaren because of the progress they made, because of the changes, the wind tunnel, etc. I think the biggest hype around sort of a mid-car team to make the next step was behind McLaren, and I mean if anything, there were probably races. They were probably maybe the seventh fastest car.
Yeah.
I mean they were because when they started the season they were slower than Alpine. They were
Well, we were at the
slower
back
than
in Bahrain, weren't they?
well, yeah, they were slower than Alpine. They were slower than the Alphas. And like I said, they were at the back in Bahrain. They got quicker as they got forward, but there needs to be some. With the changes they've made to the personnel and stuff, I mean, do you really see them going that much forward this season? I don't.
No, it's going to be a difficult one, which obviously we'll get into on preview, and we'll be saying that a lot during the podcast today, I think, because we've obviously got lots of things sort of tying together. Alpha, flattered to deceive, really, had a really great car at the start of the season with Bottas. Joe obviously coming into Formula One, and then I think they scored like 2 points in the last 10 races or something. It was absolutely crazy, and they still managed to finish really high in the constructors generally. Alpha Tauri didn't. I think we can say didn't turn up for the whole season. Williams hit and miss, depends whether they had a corner to go around. If it was straight line, they were absolutely fine. As soon as they hit a circuit that wasn't Monza or a quick circuit like that, they really struggled. Who else we got? Aston Martin couldn't decide which car to run. I literally designed 2 full cars. So 2022 was I would say a bit of a mess, because obviously we had the changes in livery, changes in liveries, changes in cars. We had the changes in terms of a budget cap. We had the changes in terms of this third driver in practice. You know, all the teams had to run one young driver in each practice session, and
I totally forgot about that stupid rule.
yeah. So we got to Abu Dhabi, and half the field didn't do practice one because all the teams went, "Oh crap, we haven't run a driver yet." Yeah, I am shocked we didn't get to Abu Dhabi and all 20 cars were young drivers. To be fair,
Yeah, same.
But yeah,
it's a totally stupid rule though.
Yeah, I always liked the old rule. I think it was about 2003-ish, and Alan McNish went to Renault for it. And basically they had a half an hour practice or something in the morning before practices even started. And if you were willing to stick to a budget cap, you were allowed this extra track time with a third car as well. And so it was never your driver gaining any advantage. It was always your third driver going out, but it made sense. So, like for example, Red Bull could send out. Well, Red Bull couldn't stick in a budget cap when you're all meant to stick in a budget cap. So, sticking to one so you can stick another car out is probably not going to happen. But Daniel Ricciardo would have been the driver who would go out and run for an hour in the morning, and that would be really useful to the teams. And it's where Renault really set their mark in terms of winning Alonso 2 championships, really.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, we'll move along now, because I have just realised we've been waffling for about 10 minutes about 2022, and that's not important because we've got 2023 ahead of us, and I am kind of excited for this season because I think that certain teams will get back into the mix. I think certain teams will be going well in general, but can anybody beat the energy drinks company? I'm not quite sure. We'll get into that as we go along. But first up, musical chairs. Now, as you saw before, I have a little bit of a notebook. I'm not, so thank you, whoever got me this ages ago. So we can kind of look back at what happened, because so much has happened in the winter in terms of musical chairs, but absolutely sod all of it has been to do with car drivers.
For those of you new, welcome to the political side of F1, where it makes government economy representatives and FIFA look completely sane.
Oh yeah, if you're into FIFA and football, you get what FIFA have had the last 2 years. Imagine having the what do they call it instead of the Super League that football wants to bring in, or some people in football want to bring in. None of the teams do, none of the fans do. Nobody important actually wants to bring it in, but because it's all around money, it still hangs around. And F1 has always had that of the teams going, sod it, we're going to leave. I think 2005-ish, Ferrari were ready to leave and take teams with them to form another group. And I think that was probably about the last time we really heard of a breakaway series. But I don't think that's going to be happening this time.
I don't think so.
But we did have some interesting stories over winter. So first up, we'll start with our good friend at the FIA, shall we? The boss of the FIA, shall we call him?
Mr. Salman.
Yeah. I was leaving that to you because I couldn't. My brain literally went for a brain fart, and I completely forgot what his full name is.
Mohammed bin Salman.
That's it. So Mohammed bin Salman is, for those who don't know, he's been a rally driver in the past. He's done racing himself. Not to mention he was sponsored by Red Bull. No, we're not gonna drive like that throughout this podcast. Don't worry about that. But Mohammed is in charge of the FIA and the link with F1. He's not going to be doing the day-to-day bit of that because of over the winter some comments were made, shall we say? And Wajid, would you like to expand on that, shall we?
Where to start with this, man? So, firstly, for those who, I think it's well accustomed that politics and sport have now become hand in hand over the last sort of couple of years, given Qatar World Cup, the LGBT, racism, things like that. And F1, at the start of the race, were the F1 drivers were very, very prevalent of wanting to make a stand before the race and before the just after the national anthems. The FIA president, in all his wisdom, decided to say, yeah, no, that's not happening. He essentially said, you're a bunch of drivers, go race your cars and don't bother bringing any of this into the sport. which obviously quite clearly some of the drivers, noticeably your seven-time world champion and the most statistical successful driver in history, along with your retired four-time world champion, who is third statistically on the, the greatest racer, didn't really like those comments. So with all the public pressure, and along with some other stuff which Dave will get into, he's had to take a bit of a step back, and that's not to mention the Drive to Survive clip that's come out either. Have you seen it? Where he says to Christian Horner, "I am your only friend." It's not great. It's not a great look.
Yeah, we'll get on to Drive to Survive and how they well, let's put it this way. You can see we've got nice red boxes around us. There'd be a lot of bends and curves and waves in the way that the truth goes for Drive to Survive. But yeah, it's not ideal. But what we've got is a guy who's come in, and I'll be honest, at first he was doing okay. He was doing a decent job. You know, we obviously had Jean Todt in before, who coming from Ferrari. There's calls of being sort of linked to Ferrari and stuff like that, and then he had Ross Brawn in Formula One as well. So basically, the old Ferrari team were back, but running the sport, and I don't think that was such a bad thing. But I do find it ironic that Ross decided to jump ship just as the new rules that he had built came in. So any criticism of the new rules would have been aimed at somebody else instead of himself. It's a bit of a strange one, really, but you would have thought you would hang around for a year or two just to make sure it's all right. But and then ironically, Pat Simmons is involved as well, who was involved in the Crashgate scandal of 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. So
it's just insane, isn't it? In what other sport would someone who effectively cheated, may argue cost Felipe Massa a world title, just to welcome him back into the sport with open arms? It's just insane.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but next up, Flavio Briatore. It's just an insane situation, and you just wonder. I mean, obviously, Mohammed and Bin Salah has sort of stepped back and said, "I'm not going to be linked with the bits to do with F1," because obviously the other comment that come out was about Andretti and Cadillac. The teams didn't want Andretti in last season. Bin Sahal what did? Then they teamed up with Cadillac, and then the teams went, "Oh, we're warming to it, but we still don't want them." And then Mohammed's like, "Yeah, but you want new teams in." The whole point, for those who don't know, basically, if you're new entrant to Formula One, you have to pay about, was it 20 million or something? Or 200 million, sorry.
It was
200 million.
Sounds, yeah.
I was going to say 20 million. Sounds like, it sounds a bit too small for Formula One.
By the way, we're not saying it's still not a ridiculous amount of money. We're not saying that. It's just, yeah. So it's just figures are just astronomical at this point. But sorry, mate. Go on.
Yeah. So you had the situation that the teams would lose if you had more teams. The money that's given out per point would be split between more teams. They would lose revenue, which, considering we've got a cost cap anyway, shouldn't really matter. But they say we'd lose revenue, so new teams need to pay in 200 million. And then a team comes along with the backing of Cadillac and a budget and a well-known Formula IndyCar team. Andretti have done so much in the sport; it's ridiculous. Well, they've got the money.
Well, Andretti's not even like it's a name in F1 as well.
Yeah,
it's heritage, and for those who may not know who Cadillac are one of the biggest car producers in the United States. We're talking on par with sort of your Fords, your Nissan, your Toyota. We're talking that sort of scale. a multi-billion-pound car company, so they're not short of money at all. And like and I do agree with Suleiman in the sense that F1's biggest complaint with teams with teams that come in has always been, we don't want independence. Independence aren't, we want established car brand names to make it legitimize or bring the car branding and stuff. So in that sense, I do agree with him. It might be Andretti Cadillac or whichever
Yeah.
badge Cadillac we're going to use, but in that sense, I do agree with him. Like you can't complain. You can't complain. You don't have enough car manufacturers, and then one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world, along with Audi, potentially Ford, potentially Honda, want to get in the sport, and then you go, well, actually, no, we want to we want to. Well, no, you got a bunch of jump over a bunch of hoops. Like it doesn't. It's all just pity patty, tit for tat. It's all just handbags that like really, in my opinion, to be perfectly honest, it's all just very petty.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody did follow the Red Bull um, budget cap scandal last year, obviously that was the same. It's like, well, you broke the rules, you should pay a fine. But then the team that broke the rules going, we didn't break the rules, we just bent them. It's it's all politics and everything. So, and I think a lot of them are scared of Andretti coming in because Andretti do have a big force behind them. But as far as I know, Andretti are continuing to build their factory over in America. I don't advise that being the best idea, Michael, because most of the stuff is in Europe. But we'll
I mean
bypass that.
most of the stuff's in London. Never mind Europe.
Yeah.
Most of the
Well,
stuff's in London.
if you take American drivers as the best example, any American driver in Formula One who has, well, the last American driver I think that ran in Formula One but wasn't based in Europe was Michael Andretti. So he has the experience that it doesn't work. He was
And he
jet
also
lagged like hell.
and he also didn't make it to the end of the season either, from what I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, because it wasn't going to plan for him, and he just couldn't keep up with all the traveling and everything. It was ridiculous for him. So a
I think
strange decision.
yeah, but I think the other comment that Bin Suleiman made that has really, out of all the other comments, the big comment he's made, which is really, I think, ticked off F1, was the comment that he goes, the value of F1 is overinflated. Because
Yeah,
it's a man. It seems to, I don't know. There seems to be something in the billionaires' water this month with sort of WWE, Man United, and now Liberty Media. It's like an open secret that they are trying to sell Formula One for a value, what they believe a perceived value of around 4.5 to 5 billion. To which he said, "Yeah, that's." I think he said, I think he said that's, I think he said that's like double the price of what the value of F1 is, and that more than anything else, because like, if you have, who cares about racism, who cares about sexism, who cares about anything else, when you piss off a man and their money, then that's where we draw the line. But that's what's really seemed to cause the backlash and anger.
yeah, certainly so. And yeah, so F1 don't really have a head honcho right now with the FAA, which is kind of a bit of a strange situation. But moving on, talking about head honchos, the teams have decided we're not going to keep swapping drivers this year. Let's swap our bosses. Um, there's at least, off the top of my head, 4 changes over winter. We'll try and go through each one bit by bit and try and explain why the choice was made. And because some of them are a bit like, if you look at them at first, you're wondering why it's happened, but we can explain little bits about why it's happened. So the first one I think we'd look at is Jos Capita from Williams. He was brought in by the group that brought Williams, and he was head honcho for 2 seasons, 3 seasons possibly, and
Yeah,
I think it's two.
yeah, I think it was 2 because they
Yeah,
got bought out. They got bought out in 21, didn't they?
yeah, that's right. Because
Yeah.
I remember him being interviewed for George Russell's podium in Spa,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he was quite happy with himself there. But yeah, Jos Capita retiring from the sport, retiring from business. I'm sure he will be back in some kind of way because people don't retire from Formula One very easily.
I mean, also from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like it's a retirement. It sounds like it's a mate. The door's right there. If you just
Yeah.
like your bags are already at the door. If you just want to follow where your bags are, that's the type of retirement it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a shame though, because I think he did a very good job considering the budget and the situation Williams were in beforehand. He came in, he's restored a little bit of honour in that team. I can't say he's brought back the right livery because you can't bring Rothmans back into the into the liveries these days. But in for Jos Capita at Williams, announced about a week later, was James Vowles. Now, it's not a name which a lot of people will know, but they may know the Valtteri, it's James comment over the radio. So basically, James Vowles was one of the engineers over at Mercedes. So he's been there for, I think, a huge number of years, to be fair. I think he was there in the Brawn time as well. Worked his way up, and he has now gone to Williams as the team principal. I was speaking to somebody who works at Williams just the other day, and they were literally taking him round, meeting everybody in the crew. So he's there, started work this week, and I say it's quite a good choice. I think he's learned a lot from Williams, and he's somebody who knows the F1 field well.
No, I think, and he's also someone who has been, for all intents and purposes, in a championship winning car for. If you want to take Brawn into Mercedes, he's been in that sort of championship environment for over a decade. So I think it's a good step. I think the only sort of, I think for me the only sort of caveat I may have with James Vowles is some of his decision making, along with the rest of sort of the head engineers in terms of strategy and things like that, especially last year, haven't been great. So I think at Williams, he can. At Williams, I feel like at Williams, as bad as it sounds for a team with so much history, at Williams is where he's going to hone his craft.
Yeah.
And he can get out. It's the perfect place for him to make mistakes and things like that, because let's be honest, who's really going to focus on Williams? Williams aren't competing for a world title this year. So I think it's a good step with Williams. I think it's a good step for him, and let's see if he can push the team. Let's see if he can push the team on. Like you said, with Capita in the record books, it does say podium. It might not be a proper podium, but it does say podium.
Yeah.
And he's got in Albon, he's got a capable driver. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, so that was near the back of the grid. Also near midfield, shall we call them, was, do we call them Alfa Romeo? Yes, we still do, just about.
Yeah, this just about.
Alfa Romeo anyway have now signed Seidel from McLaren, which a lot of people raise the eyebrows at, but when you know the history of Seidel, it's a situation where he used to run for Porsche. He used to help run Porsche, the LMP1s at Le Mans. So I think it was always there for Audi to sort of go, put you into Formula One. We're going to look at Formula One, let you go. If it looks good, then we can turn around and say, well, this is the way we want to do things. And he comes in not as team principal. As far as we're concerned, there isn't a team principal at Alfa Romeo next season. He is a CEO, so he will be building the team over the next 4 years, 2013, 2014, 2015, so 3 years for Audi to enter in 2016, if it happens.
2026, not 2006.
Sorry, 26. We're going back in time a little bit, but it's that one where you're in a situation that if Seidel knows what he's doing, which he did at McLaren, then it's going to
He
look.
did, but did he? But
The
did he?
problem is with McLaren is you had Zach Brown above you, and I don't think Zach Brown is the best of CEOs. So now he's at the top, Seidel will be able to do what he wants to do. McLaren, as we know, are backed by a huge amount of different people. So it's not like you're talking to Zach Brown and that's it. You have to talk to everybody.
I, I think I think the problem, I think for me anyway, the problem is reputationally he has taken a hit because he was with that McLaren team, with the hype, with the new wind tunnel, with the with sort of everything else. So that's, I understand the history with sort of Porsche and now soon to be Audi, with Sauber, but let's see. I'm gonna give him this year because obviously the car was already sort of pretty much designed and built long before he was a part of the team. Um, I'm interested to see what car he brings next year. He's got a sort of a clean slate this year to put in his structure, put in his sort of organizational, and put in his people, work with the development team for the car for next year. So I will judge him on next year.
Yeah, I think this year is probably a bit of a building year for him with Alfa Romeo stroke Sauber stroke whatever you care to call them. Who's going to fund them at the end of the season? I'm not sure because Alfa Romeo won't be there, so it will be back to the Sauber brand. God knows, we might even see Peter Sauber back on the pit wall, which would be brilliant.
That man is going. I will give him something. He lives, breathes, dies a sport, and the amount of sort of times that team has been bought by a different car company for them just to disappear 3 years later.
He's
and
loaded.
He just retires like
he must be loaded.
Honestly, he must be. He must be on that. He must be on. He must be having like a Red Bull budget all by himself at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's just insane how many times. I mean, Sauber to BMW to Sauber. We've had BMW in there, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari. We've had Audi now. So yeah,
Audi now.
It's certainly been a few different. And at the start, Mercedes were part of it as well because that's who Sauber Mercedes was a GT Le Mans team.
Right.
So
Of course, yeah.
there's a big link there. Going off that, McLaren obviously having one space left, they have upgraded Andrea Stella. Now, we've seen how engineers becoming team principals has worked so well at Ferrari. McLaren went, I know, we'll do that. Yeah, Andrea Stella, somebody who we've seen build up through McLaren. He really has built up through McLaren. I think he was possibly at Ferrari at some point as well, but I can't quite remember. He is an absolute godsend in the engineering bit, but can he run a team? That's the question.
No, I don't think he can. No, but I don't think he. I don't look. I know what you. And look, I'm gonna say the same thing about him as I said about oh, for goodness sake, who's Andrea Seidel, which is he's been part of that revolution, that hype, that build for the McLaren team. I understand what you said about the Mercs, having 50 different bosses to build, but for me, I just think it's the wrong. I really do believe it's the wrong appointment, and I really don't have high expectations for that car this year, and I think not as bad as when Honda joined, but I think McLaren are stuck in mid-table infamy at the minute, and I think I think Alpine are the most likely team to break through, especially with a certain driver now somewhere else.
Well, we can certainly say one thing. McLaren have learnt their lessons from the past and are now negotiating with Honda about an engine deal. So, yeah, they learn from the mistakes, don't they? GP2, GP2. We'll
It's the
move on. Sorry, go on.
sorry, the irony and all that, as soon as they got rid of their Honda contract, Honda found 30 brake horsepower out of nowhere. It's just honestly, it's the irony in it all.
That's right. Just wait till we hear Alonso's going back to McLaren. The final one, which I think was the main thing, which was Ferrari. Matteo Binotto has gone, and Fred Vasseur from who was running Sauber, Alfa Romeo, Audi, whatever you care to call it. It's almost like Team Enstone, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, are they Renault? Are they Lotus? Are they whatever else? Benetton.
Benetton.
Yeah, Tolman. But yeah, that's going back a long way. That's showing my age. Yeah, Fred Vasseur. What a lot of people have gone, oh my God, why are you signing this guy? First of all, this guy, Fred Vasseur, knows how to win titles. He raced with ART for many years. He was their team principal, winning 20, I think it was about 24 championships in lower categories, so in F3 and F2, sorry, or GP2 or whatever you care to call it. It's many iterations over way. So he knows how to win championships. Now, also the last person to lead for Ferrari without being Italian, Jean Todt.
John Todd.
That went well, didn't it? You know, what's your personal feeling on this, Wajid, in terms of Vasseur going to Ferrari? Do you think that's the outside influence that we could say Honda missed when they were at McLaren? You know, they were very much, we want to do it in Japan, and we don't want people coming in and putting their ideas into it, whereas Ferrari have sort of opened up to that.
So I feel slightly sorry for Matteo Binotto. I really do, because if you look at the progress of the car under his stewardship, it went from absolutely nowhere to, for all intents and purposes, a car that many people thought, you and I on many podcasts last year, it wasn't that they weren't quick enough, because Charles was sticking it on pole like no tomorrow. It was strategically. It was just mistake after mistake. We literally had a segment called "Oh Ferrari." That became it started as a catchphrase, and then it became a segment. I think if Binotto had if he had some cojones and made some changes during the season, saying these mistakes aren't good enough, we're making too many mistakes, I think Binotto would still be in a job. However, that being said, they've got a very good leader in the replacement. You can see what he sort of did at Alfa. You can see what he did at progress-wise at Alfa Romeo. He's someone that I think will be. I think he's come into a team that's in a very good position, and all he's got to do is add that ruthless streak at the top, like that Jean Todt Ross Brawn partnership had. And I think as soon as Ferrari get that, Ferrari will challenge for a world title. I'm not saying win a world title, but they'll definitely challenge. I think it's amazing that we're getting to nearly 20 years since Ferrari last won a world title, which I think is insane.
Yeah, exactly. And you remember the Schumacher era where we're going, oh my God, we're 19, 20 years since we won a title. Can Schumacher do it? None of that is happening right now. You know, you don't get, oh my God, can Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz take the title? You know, it's not got that euphoria about it anymore, and that's kind of weird because obviously the Tifosi are so passionate. But yeah, I think it's a good. Like I say, I feel sorry for Binotto a bit, but also I think Fred is not a bad choice to bring in and try and steady the ship as such in terms of their choices. Because, like you say, the choices is the thing that's really kind of let them down as the season goes on, and you know, that's just how just how it's sort of been. And as for choices, I don't think there's any other changes off the top of my head.
No, not sort of CEO, head engineer, team principal wise. No.
So we'll obviously at some point get into the liveries, and we're going to really dig into the liveries and the teams each one by one. So we won't mention the driver swaps and stuff like that just yet. All the teams have launched their cars, and we head into testing on Thursday for 3 days of Bahrain. Woo! Yes, everybody can get there for a test session. I love it how they go, we're going to bring F1 to the fans, and then they stick the testing in Bahrain. While it makes sense with the Grand Prix a week afterwards, what's wrong with Barcelona?
In the second, and I think it's the third most expensive country in the world as well.
Yeah.
Bahrain.
Well, that's why it's there then, isn't it?
It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
I think that's pretty much it for winter. If I think off the top of my head, I can't think of a huge amount, apart from Helmut Marko popping his voice in every now and again. But nothing interesting comes out of it.
No, I think so. The only other thing is sort of like clips from Max and Lewis saying they don't dislike each other. They have a lot of respect for each other. It's just what happens on the racetrack and then the media hype and everything, like that.
If you're going to turn around in a championship fight and push somebody out wide in a corner, you're going to get the headlines that you don't like the chap, aren't you?
Well, his Max's racecraft came into question again, didn't it? Because the Silverstone battle with him and Schumacher started doing the circuits again.
Where
for some
from?
reason.
Why
I don't
does
know.
it suddenly come up onto Twitter?
I don't know, right? So you've seen it as well. Have no idea why it started, but that's all of a sudden. I mean, there has all like completely off topic as always, but I mean, Max's racecraft has always left something to be desired. Let's be honest. But you know, in other news, the grass is green, the sky is blue, and you know, Britain is cold. What's new?
It's quite a nice day today. That's why I had to shut the curtains. To be fair. But yeah, so we're going to move on, and you're going to get to see a bit of a different screen in a minute if I can press the right button. Ooh. Let's see. Actually, I've just realised I'm going to have to put the right thing on the screen first, because if not, you're going to end up just seeing us because I've got the YouTube up. So, YouTube, Twitch. I know what I mean. And while we're here, of course, if you are new to the channel and you enjoy the content, we don't just do podcasts. I'll be doing iRacing. We'll be doing maybe some Call of Duty stuff. We'll see. But gaming as well as these podcasts throughout the time. Please follow and share out the channel if you can, so we could get as many people watching as possible. If you want to see any of these podcasts afterwards, you can go to the YouTube channel, which will be on, it's below actually, isn't it? Yes, it is below, yeah. On here, it's below. It's next to my name on the thing.
I was just pointing to the name, like just search Motorsport Magpie on YouTube. But yeah, links in the description. Like Dave said, please do like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and get involved as well, please. We'd love to hear from you guys during the podcast and stuff.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we want some people to help talk to us and give us ideas, because actually we're not always right. Most of the time we are, but not always. But in terms of the channel, you know, like I said before, the subs and that will all be set up at some point. But I'm not, you know, we're not here for that. We're here just to have a good time and enjoy talking about Formula One, and that is the main thing for this podcast. So if you're on Let me get this right. If you're on Twitch, follow. If you're on YouTube, subscribe.
There we go.
I think that's the right way. And if you want to subscribe on Twitch, you can, but it's going to cost you money. Or actually, no, it doesn't. Amazon Prime. You can use 1 month Amazon Prime. You can subscribe to the channel, and I will say straight away that anything that is made by the channel will be going towards the podcast and what we do. So it'll be great run. Just while we are here, I would like to thank if you're on YouTube and you want to get involved in the chat, come across to the Twitch channel and follow there, because when we go live, you'll get a notification. I would like to say thanks. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was also going to, but also do leave your comments in the YouTube section below as well. We will do our best to read all the comments and everything like that.
Yeah, I would like to thank already in the channel. We've had Tanner, Will, and Seaman into the channel. So thank you all for coming in. And if you've got any questions, you got anything you want to ask ready for a podcast, feel free. And this little bit I can clip out of YouTube anyway, so it's all right. But we will now move on to, and hello Jimmy as well. Thank you for popping in. I don't know what I'm having for tea, just to let you know. That's a Wajid's like, what the hell? But no, Jimmy always comes in and asks what I'm having for tea. So I don't know yet, because we're going to move on to this. Look at that.
Hey.
Actually, I meant to do that. Don't need you to all see my symbols down here, do we? And how much my computer's running like mad. But on to the liveries, shall we say? So this was the first livery launched here at here. It wasn't launched here. This was the livery launch of the Haas. Now Haas, I would say, had a bit of a comeback season last year. Schumacher, Mazepin, enough said about it. We've seen Mazepin's driving in LMPs over winter as well. He hasn't improved. I'm not going to say anything more than that because he could be listening, and he has a lot of money, so we might want some backing. But if we can get him into Formula One and he wants to put our name on the car, feel free. Yes, you don't. Yes, you don't want to see his LMPs driving. It's to be fair, he does leave a space between the barrier and his car, but it's a space that's actually off the track. So Alonso would be proud of him. He did leave a space, but yeah, the Haas, certainly this is the year where Haas really want to kick on, signing Kevin Magnussen for a second year, dropping the Mick Schumacher name from the car and bringing in another experienced driver in Nico Hülkenberg. Possibly the first time you can say that Haas have had two experienced drivers since probably Grosjean and K-Mag themselves. But we know what happened with that in terms of the relationship going a bit sour. So Haas have unveiled their car. Wajid, first impressions of what Haas have brought out for the 2023 season?
Well, they've gone back to their sort of traditional colorway when they were with Rich Energy. For those who remember that far back, those who remember exactly.
Oh, that company that beat Red Bull, got you.
That company that's got so many lawsuits. That company that got so many lawsuits. It makes yeah. I can't. I just realized the similarity I was going to use. I can't actually say. So I'll stop that there. But no, it's back to the old school way. The MoneyGram logo on the hood of the car really does stick out.
Which is the point of it.
Yeah, but at least there's progress from, because when they were sponsored by Mazepin's father, that was literally the only logo, and you didn't know if Haas were going to survive. So to get to the point they're at now, I think it's a good step. It's on the better side of liveries in terms of what's been released. I like the contrast. let's just see how quick the car is now. To be honest, I want Haas to be there consistently with sort of Alpine. I'm gonna assume McLaren and stuff. I want them to be in that middle tier because, like you said, they made a massive step last year. Regardless of anything, K-Mag stuck it on pole in Brazil as well. Haas did get a pole position, so you know it might and you know he did his very best before he started tumbling backwards. I want to see I want Haas development to progress through the year and not they get 5 months in and go right. So that we've done all we can. The car's is going to be as it is, boys.
Yeah, you do get the feeling that Gene Haas is a bit thinking it's NASCAR and you've got one shape and that's about it. Yeah, Haas's development plans haven't really been very large. We've heard things about the 1990 Tyrrell-esque livery. I agree with that. I was just about old enough to remember it, but also have done my history. So, yeah, it does kind of look like that. MoneyGram logo, yes, there's been some complaints about that. I love how people are like, oh, they've nicked Nico Hulkenberg's number from Renault. No, that's his own product. That's what the drivers do. They have it. They have a shape of a number as their product. They haven't nicked it from Renault. That's just Nico Hulkenberg, which we'll get onto in a bit because, ironically, he could have been back in the Aston Martin if he had not gone to Haas, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, it's a good. It looks a cleanish car. The livery's decent. You know, there's nothing wrong with the livery. I think they've gone quite safe. I mean, it could be just the rendering which we've got, but the side pods don't look like they're very sculptured or anything. So they are going for a Red Bull style small front of the wings. I think we could see my mouse. Yes, there we go. So you could see the airbox there for the side pods, but then along here it's not tucking in as much as most, and especially not the Mercedes. And there's not loads of slot gaps and gaps up here. So what they've got from Ferrari in terms of development help, because we all know, as much as Haas want to say it, they do get development help off Ferrari. It's a clean car. It's a safe car, I would say. Wajid, what would you say about their driver pairing being Hulkenberg and K-Mag? Obviously, two drivers who have promised so much when they first come to Formula One. Nico with a brilliant junior career, no doubt about it. But is it the right one for Haas?
I don't think Nico Hulkenberg should be back in Formula One. So you and I spoke before the season ended. You and I spoke in length about probably some of the worst crop of junior drivers there has been for a number of years. In terms of there was no one could. You looked at sort of F2 and stuff, and apart from the lad that's gone to Aston, yeah, thank you, Drugovich. Apart from Drugovich, no one stood out in F2. Everyone looked like they'd taken a step back with the F1 point system and IndyCar. By the way, someone put online the F1 point system. How does the championship winner of IndyCar get less points than the F2 series? Make it make sense.
Just to clear up to people, he does mean the super licenses, not just points per win. I was going to say IndyCar get like stupid amount of points per win.
Sorry, the super license. Make it make sense.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
Just to throw out there, Alex Palau, who obviously took the championship not last year, the year before, when he took that championship, he was a silver rated driver. So he wasn't even gold rated. He wasn't a super license. He was silver rated, which they suddenly changed when he won an IndyCar championship. But yes,
sorry,
the rating's really interesting. Run. Yeah.
Sorry, that was
no. That's what we're here for.
To go off topic and not talk about the subjects.
No.
I don't think. I think K-Mag had enough sort of goodwill in the tank with Haas. He knew the team. I don't think he should have lost his drive to Mazepin anyway. I've never rated Schumacher. I've never rated Schumacher as highly as you have. Um, I just wanted to get that in there because that's fraud, 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 fraud watch was
Oh, you
strong
haven't
last
brought
year. There
Ford
was
Watch with you.
listen, fraud watch is coming wherever. Fraud
Oh,
watch took
great.
no losses last year. Um,
I'll get the solicitor in.
but I don't think Nico Hulkenberg should be back in Formula One. I think his time's done. Yeah, he's great as a reserve driver, things like that. Uh, as even and still, as much as I don't like Schumacher, I think he's taking a seat off Schumacher.
Yeah, for me, I am slightly less. I mean, while I do still rate Schumacher, and I know your opinion of Schumacher very much from last season, but I still think he's a good signing where he's gone to Mercedes as a third driver. I think that's a very good idea. We'll get onto third drivers as we go along because McLaren, my God, you got more drivers than the IndyCar field put together. Just as third drivers, with announcing another two today, which is just insane. But in terms of Haas, they need a stable lineup. Hulkenberg's a stable pair of hands. Magnussen's a stable-ish pair of hands if he can keep his front wing in one piece. Because the amount of times he broke that front wing last season is just insane. Not always his fault, but sometimes it was.
90% of the time it was.
Yeah, possibly, and it was always on opening laps. They just
And
need
it was
a. They
and it was
do
always
just need
and
a
it,
stable season.
and it was always attracted to the back of Lewis's Merc.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I will say is please, whoever is watching this, do not take Haas at face value from the first few races because they always go well in Bahrain. Always, even you know, let's forget Mazepin season. Let's forget Grosjean's accident. The Haas is always a good car around Bahrain at the start of the season. So it's something which, has to be, excuse the pun, has to be taken into account as the season goes on. I would wait until we get past Australia before you really get an idea of where Haas stand because they've gone well in Melbourne as well. And like's been said in the chat, they don't develop. They just really don't develop.
No, they don't. Let's like you said, let's wait till we get a good way into the European portion of the season to know where Haas are. I don't. Like I said, I want them to be in that mid-table battle this season. I want Gene Haas. I know he's throwing a lot of money into the car and things like that, but I want Gene Haas to. I don't want the Haas team to just be there for the sake of being there.
Yeah.
I think they're long beyond that point. They're fairly established as a team now. You know, they went from midfield to the back for these regulations. So let them push on. I'm not saying they're going to be challenging for wins or anything like that, but they should be they should be in the position now where when the sort of top 3 or 4 teams are taking each other out, they should be there picking up the big points and big scraps. I think that's where Haas should realistically be aiming for.
Well, just to throw a little idea in there, as this is the only American team we have in Formula One. Let's say that Haas gets bored in a couple of years and Andretti isn't allowed on. Could you see Haas and Andretti teaming together as a squad and Andretti finally taking over at the end of it?
I think they'll just be bought. I think Haas will just be bought out clean, and I think you'll get Andretti Cadillac, but with all the Haas infrastructure already in place, and then they'll essentially do a Lawrence Stroll where they'll have all the initial infrastructure and then just throw so much money on top to sort of try and build as quick as possible. I think that's the most realistic outcome if they can't get onto the grid.
Well, if that happens, I'm sure partners will have a massive sale on tracing paper just to make sure that Haas and Aston Martin do have enough between them. I'm sorry. I know too many people at Aston Martin. I apologise to you all, and please don't unfollow because of that comment. Next up, we have the
I have no association. I have no association with the thoughts and opinions of Motorsport Magpie. If you
yeah
want to follow me, by all means, follow me.
yeah. Next up, we do have the Williams, which I am gonna just back out and zoom in because I haven't managed to get very good images of it. So I don't know why. I don't know why I've been so tailbook trying to find images this morning of these cars. The Williams, a very quiet launch. Few things understated on it. The main thing noticed was Duracell battery, which was there last year. Why has everybody gone wild for a Duracell battery on the top of the car?
It's because last year's it was all last year it was all the way black with the orange, wasn't it? This year it
Yeah.
actually genuinely looks like the battery. So
Yeah, but this isn't Le Mans. It doesn't have to go all night long.
wait, yeah, like I said, very understated. I think it's understated because it's just like what, like no one, like Haas were the first launch. That's why everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, Haas." No one cares about Williams. Let's be perfectly honest. Williams are fodder at this moment in time, aren't they? Unfortunately,
For me right now, I feel like they're not in such a bad place as these two teams, but Minardi and Tyrrell in the late 90s, they're going to be there. They're not going to go bust, but they'll only get the odd. I mean, they're in a better position. They will get odd results, but right now, because I was speaking to somebody again who works at Williams, and I'm looking at this car and I'm going, "Oh, look, you've got the rounded nose back out." But then you look at last year's car, and they did until for opening round when they stuck a normal nose on it. So, as we know, a little bit of a trick of the eye always in practice, in testing. And by the looks of this, a very Aston Martin Red Bullish side pod, I would say, looking at that, which is slightly away from what they were doing last season.
I think they've just gone down the route of which car, the Red Bull was so dominant. Let's see, it's not the side pod isn't as sort of indented as the Red
Yeah.
Bulls is. The Red Bulls is very sort of extreme in comparison, but you can sort of see where up until 2026 these cars are gonna head, especially if
Yeah.
Red Bull do dominate the way they do. But I'll jump ahead slightly. What do you think of the driver pairing?
I think Alex Albon, very strong driver. I mean, this is the weird thing about Williams. Like, they've gone for James Vowles from Mercedes. They've always had this Mercedes link, and then they jumped in and got a Red Bull driver. And then all the talk about Red Bull and everything, they're very mixed. They don't really have a partnership with anybody apart from Mercedes for like sort of the rear of the car. I don't know if that's 100% there anymore. Wajid's gone a bit quiet. I think that was possibly him. I will turn him up a little bit though. Wajid, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, can you not hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Somebody just said you were a bit quiet. That was all.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, he's probably just blasted your ears out now. I will just turn him back down a bit because you've gone into red now. You just have to keep holding it up when you want to talk. But yeah, so the driver pairing, Alex Albon, a great little signing. I think he's still he is in the mark of Pierre Gasly. If he gets the right car, whatever, he can do the business. But he hasn't. He's very timid, isn't he? He's not sort of a driver who you go, yeah, he's confident in his own skills. In terms of Logan Sargent, it's a strange one with Logan because he had such. When they first announced him, you were going, yeah, he's the one making moves in F2. And then it was a scrabble at the end to try and get a super license, and you're wondering, yeah, I mean, I suppose he is the best US hope, really, of bringing somebody in. Like, I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about Colton Herta coming in. But I actually think Logan Sargent will do just as good a job as Colton Herta would have done, because Herta, why are you going to leave to be a midfielder in or back of a grid in F1 when you've got a top drive in IndyCar? It makes no sense, and we spoke about that many times last year. Logan, I think he's an all right driver. I don't think he'll be a Latifi, but we've got to give him half a season to get up to speed to start off with. Your views, Wajid?
Um,
Is the fraud list already getting big?
no, everyone. Listen, everyone. Look, like, let me make this clear. With Fraud Watch, everyone starts. It's a clean slate unless your name is Nicholas Latifi. All right, for everyone,
To be
it's a
fair,
clean
I
slate.
don't remember Mick Schumacher coming off the list. I thought he was in the
No,
departure round.
Right, and then what happened? Did I not say at Silverstone? Did I not say
Yeah,
if he has one good result, then he's on? Did I not say that? And then what
yeah,
happened?
you did.
Yeah,
And he did
I'm
get one
fair.
good result, and he never left the building.
I'm very Fraud Watch is very fair. But look at Fraud Watch. Schumacher on the list, not on the grid. Ricardo on the list, not on the grid. Um, Sonoda,
Latifi.
Sonoda probably in last chance saloon
Yeah.
this season. Latifi was just like the safe bet, but Fraud Watch was undefeated last year.
I'll
So
give you that.
I knew it was fair. I mean, in terms of I'm not gonna say I've seen much in terms of Logan Sargent, more because I keep on forgetting his name. Oh my days, the Aston Martin lad,
Djokovic.
Djokovic. Oh, I'm having it's just I keep on wanting to say Dubravka
I
because he was
tell you
at
what, you're
United.
gonna have to remember it if he suddenly does Bahrain.
I keep on wanting to say Dubravka.
Oh, don't start us on Newcastle goalkeepers, please don't.
Well, he was a United keeper for 6 months only. So, like, let's see. For me, it just feels like they got an American into to sort of get to the American crowd because there's so many races in America. There'll be people's eyes will be on Williams. It's like, ooh, look, he'll be doing all the rounds in America on the late night TV shows, Good Morning America, things like that. That's what Logan Sargent feels like, and I think if Williams wanted to move further up the grid, they should have done what they should have done to a certain extent what Haas have done in getting experienced drivers or good 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 drivers with some level of experience, sticking them in the car, getting a year or so up the grid, and then maybe trying to find a rookie driver. That's my opinion. People may not agree. I just think sticking Logan Sargent in the back of the car, in the car that requires a lot of development, isn't the greatest move. Because I don't rate. I like I said, I've not seen much of him, but I don't put him in the same sort
Yeah.
of list as a Charlie Leclerc or George Russell in terms of this is a talent that's literally here to hone their craft and is going to wring the neck out of the car.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I suppose the only other people who were linked to that drive were Schumacher. The last Schumacher we had in Williams was Ralph, and then just before that we had Michael in it a couple of times, Adelaide 94 being one of them. He was well into a Williams then. But you didn't see that one coming, did you? But yeah, so
That's amazing.
Mick going. Let's put it this way to you, because obviously we know your opinion on Mick Schumacher. Would you have took Mick Schumacher over Logan Sargent?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll
Okay.
see.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
It's not. Hang on. My opinion on Mick Schumacher is based on his results. Let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not.
No, I
Let's
understand
not.
that.
No. For everyone else in the chat that may not be, it's not. I'm not. I don't have agendas. I don't have anything like that. My whole premise on Mick Schumacher, and in fairness, it was the same with it. I said the same multiple about Sonoda getting the drive because of a Honda engine. not because of it, not because of his talent. I said that multiple times as well.
Yeah.
I think for Mick Schumacher, it's worked out a lot better. For Mick Schumacher, obviously, he's probably in the best situation. He's probably in a much better situation than being on the grid in the Williams. I mean, you're learning off a 7-time world champion and someone who, for all intents and purposes, has the potential to be a future world champion. And I also think there's a big part of Mick Schumacher and Danny Rick. Why do you want to go into a car that's even further back than where you are?
Yeah. I can certainly understand it for Danny Rick's point of view.
Yeah, so let's see. Look, I don't have many expectations of Logan Sargent. Hopefully he proves me wrong, and I'm sat here when the summer breaks going, you know what? Fair play, kid. Fair play. I just don't think that's going to be the case, unfortunately. I just think it's going to be another Albon ass whooping for 22 races, 21 races, however many races we have this season.
Well, we do have Gulf joining Williams, so we could possibly see a Gulf livery at some point in the season, which some people may want to see, some people aren't that fussed. So an interesting sponsorship there for Williams, but we'll move on to who's next. And next up, I'm not sure. Yeah, did that skip? Yeah, that skipped, right. There we go. AlphaTauri. Now,
God, that's an ugly looking thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. This is a computer-generated version of it. I do not want to see it in real life. But AlphaTauri, for once, with the fastest car reveal in history. I mean, we are so used to this team having a full Paris week fashion show beforehand, and all they did was go, car. It was like, I've got to be honest, on that, I didn't even see Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, we've now got the shortest driver pairing, I think, in F1 history. I think it really is. De Vries and Tsunoda. I can't think of anyone who's been shorter in terms of that. Not an issue. I mean, it's brilliant for them trying to design the car because they just squeeze everything up. But going back to the launch, I think the press was sitting there shocked because they're just sitting there going, right, here we go, AlphaTauri, get your popcorn out. We've got a while to go. And then before they've even got comfy in the seats, the car's revealed and Nick de Vries is standing next to it. And you're like, what the hell happened there? This is the first car which I can say has this bulge. I don't know what it is in the design, but a load of these cars have gone for this kind of bulge with the exhaust pipe. Sculptured side pods, as we can always see on the Red Bull backed cars. But yeah, I'm not keen on the livery myself. So Wajid,
no, I've already said it. Someone said muy bonito. Es no bonito. Es muy horrible. Es muy horrible. It's.
I'm so glad he can speak the other language.
it's. I can speak it okay. It is awful. It is genuinely. I'm probably gonna put. It's probably the worst livery. It's probably the worst livery on the grid, to be perfectly honest, this year.
For me, it feels like they've kind of just gone, well, we will have an all blue car. Oh no, we normally have white on it. Okay, put some white on it. Oh, what about the red sponsor?
Yeah, but I mean, what people are failing to realize is AlphaTauri is the clothing fashion brand of the Red Bull Red Bull family. So, if something was going to be, if you expecting a livery to be fashionable, look good, and everything like that, you'd expect it to be the AlphaTauri. Again, you know. Oh no, sorry, there's a comment. No, it's the best car on the grid after Red Bull.
Yeah. Forgive Seaman, we'll leave him to it, but he's having his Red Bull loving. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. So we don't have to talk about the car so much because we know it's pretty much going to be linked to Red Bull in terms of what they do. But the driver lineup, we've got obviously Nick de Vries coming in, nicked. Oh God, I'm bringing all the little words today, but nicked from under the noses of Mercedes. Williams had a chance of him after running him in Monza. Why we didn't stick him in the car after Monza, who knows? Apart from money. And yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, who I think did he get fourth in Abu Dhabi 2021, which nobody really realised because of what happened in that race. And yeah, we had to mention it. To be fair, we've got an hour 15 into the podcast before we mentioned Abu Dhabi 21. But yeah, it's just, apart from Honda, I don't see why Yuki Tsunoda is there. And obviously, with the backing of Ford coming into Red Bull, he's on borrowed time, isn't he?
He is. He really is. He has to show up. He has to show up this year. I think you and I made the point last year that because the Red Bull junior driver program was so weak with the crop of talent they had, and along with the Honda backing, that's the only reason. Oh, and Pierre Gasly leaving. That's the only reason he's still in that drive.
I honestly think the Pierre Gasly leaving thing is the thing that's kept him it. That's the main thing, because if not, you would have gone to Freese and Gasly, wouldn't you?
Oh no, yeah. Of course. But I'm just adding on top of.
Yeah.
I'm just adding on top of if there was any one of the F2 Red Bull drivers had stood out slightly, I don't think he's in the car this year. He's had flash moments, like you said, the fourth place, which was very nearly a third, which Carlos Sainz was very, very angry about, and things like that. But it's just, if you were to take him and Guan Yu Zhou last year, you'd think Guan Yu, you wouldn't say it was Zhou that was the rookie driver. It's still the same silly mistakes. It's still not on the pace. Yeah, he's on occasion he's up there with Gasly, but more often than not, you're like, oh, where's Tsunoda? Oh, he's 15th. Brilliant. And I think this, if at any point he's beaten convincingly by De Vries, I think it's the last you're going to see of Yuki Tsunoda in Formula 1.
Yeah, I can't doubt it.
Sorry, unless Honda come back with a works car.
Yeah, I can't see it myself, because they'll have another Japanese prospect along the way. You know, they've had plenty into GP2 and F2 over the years, and you just sit there thinking, well, one of them must get a chance, and they never have. So, yeah, for me, it's just about being sensible, and he's got to have a clean first half of the season, because if somebody like Liam Lawson over in, where's Lawson gone? He's gone Super Formula over in Japan. He's been pressed in testing over there, and whoever else is on the Red Bull driver scheme, because they're in and out like somebody who's really hungry going in and out of Greg's. I don't know. I was just coming up with linemen. I couldn't come up with one. But yeah, always all over the place in terms of Red Bull driver scheme. So you win a title and you're still not guaranteed to keep it. Yeah, I think De Vries is going to be the man to be challenging probably Daniel Ricciardo for that last Red Bull seat next season. And I know who Max would probably want in the car next to him. And ironically, it'd be Daniel Ricciardo, because he's not going to want a Dutch prospect who's that quick in the car next to him.
Would you say De Vries is a prospect at what? Was he 25?
Yeah, but okay, he took a while to win F2. He definitely took a while to win F2. Went to Formula E, won the title, did really well second year still as well. I just think his performance in Monza. Go on.
Sorry, not 25. He's 28. Sorry.
Yeah, he isn't young. Let's put it that way. Compared to, but then he's coming in at the same age somebody like Damon Hill did. And I know Damon Hill come into a race-winning car straight away, but obviously being at AlphaTauri, so see if De Vries had stayed in Mercedes, he'd go to Williams, he'd have a couple of years in Williams, maybe in an Aston, and then he's into his 30s before he's even in the car. AlphaTauri, we know he could be in that car in Perez's seat buy Spain if they wanted him to. You know, that is how it works at Red Bull. And this is why Perez is really going to have to perform this year, because he's got not only Daniel Ricciardo as a sub, you've got Nick de Vries, who could be absolute. You know, if AlphaTauri is quick, he'll be getting results and the points. So, be interesting to see what happens there. Just having a look at the Twitch chat, which you can come and join if you are watching the YouTube channel. Charlie B saying it's not horrible, it's just plain. Yeah, I can see that. You know, there's just nothing about it, and hopefully they've finally actually just made it a quick car, because last season it was just a horrible thing for those drivers to try and drive.
Yeah, there wasn't a circuit where you're like, oh, the Alphas are quick. Like they were they were there. But genuinely, the amount of times you end up looking at results, it had the Ocon vibe, which was when like Ocon was finishing like 6th and 7th, we were just like, how the hell did Ocon finish there? It was the same with the Alphas. The 15th, 16th. How the hell that happened? I want them to be up there. I keep on saying that, but I want there to be I want there to be a genuine midfield battle this season.
Yeah.
I think we'll get to them, but the Alpines made the midfield battle closer than it was because it was spontaneously combusting at every 5 minutes, not because anyone was close to them. So yeah, if someone's there to challenge, then you'd probably think it's Alpha or Aston are probably the closest that are going to get to them, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. The next team we are going to move on to, though, is, and it is still a surprise because I can't remember the order, Aston Martin. Again, apologies, we'll have to zoom in a little bit. That's a little bit too much, isn't it? There we go. So, the Aston Martin. 2 secs. I will get there. I can clip this out. So, Aston Martin have revealed their car. The first ones to say, we have revealed a real car for 2022. Who knows, because they designed 2 cars last winter, so you never know what they're going to come out with come the test session, never mind anything else. Aston Martin, a bit of a new era. Sebastian Vettel leaving Formula One at one point, looking like he might actually stay, but his form picked up at the end of the year, but didn't stay because just before, Fernando Alonso went, I'll have that seat. Probably one of the only teams he hasn't driven for in Formula One, and one of the teams he hasn't upset. So Fernando Alonso coming in alongside Lance Stroll. Personally,
future world champion, according to the double world champion. Thank you very much. Put some respect on his name.
Anyway, questioning why I brought you on here. Lance Stroll, obviously, slow start to his F1 career at Williams, realised he was going to Aston Martin. Well, Racing Point at the time. Tailed off completely, went to Racing Point, did okay. Knew that his dad was going to control the team. Tailed off. And it's really weird with Lance Stroll because we see the odd race where we go, that was impressive. That was a good drive. Look how he's beaten Sebastian Vettel there. But then we see things like Brazil, when you're cutting off the nose of your own teammate and making him fly up in the air. You look at USA when he did the same to Fernando Alonso. And, Fernando had just signed the contract with the team at that point. He's like, oh, this is going well. I'm already flying for the team, just over the back of his own car. It's just, I don't know. Aston's a weird one because over the last few years, we all saw Lance Stroll go in. Yes, they had Tracing Point and the jokes about that and all that. But
the pink Mercedes.
Yeah, the pink Mercedes, and last year saying it looked very much like a Red Bull. and I guarantee that car would have been appealed if it had been quick out the box, no doubt about it. But because it wasn't, and it wasn't a threat to Red Bull didn't bother. I'm not saying it was traced. They had a lot of Red Bull engineers go to Aston Martin. So, they're thinking you can't forget what you've learned. So, in terms of that, an engineer going to another team, it's going to get brought in. I think, personally, they have to make the step this year. They have to find that consistency. Lance Stroll has to make Q2 every time before we can really take him seriously. Fernando, we know he's going to drag the wheels off it, but I am slightly against everybody else. Well, completely against everybody else. I did not rate his season last year. I know he had reliability issues compared to Ocon, but most of the time Esteban was around him. There wasn't many times you went, there's Fernando, where's Esteban? Oh, he's not in the back of the picture. He must be half a lap behind. It didn't often happen. So I very much, yes, Fernando's going to drag the car around, but I see this as a move of going, well, I need a car which shows that I'm really good. I can drag the Aston Martin to places where it might not be if it's not a great car. Whereas the Alpine, if I'm needing to drag that to amazing results, I've got to drag it to a podium. That's the kind of thinking I think for Fernando, and also maybe the Aston Martin brand doing some kind of supercar, hypercar for Le Mans in the future and having contacts there. And we know he's good friends with Lawrence Stroll. So, yeah. Is it the team because of the driver lineup that I'm going to think is most toxic this year? Possibly. Because Fernando, we know what he's like with his comments. And Lance, we know what he can be like at times. He's not exactly the best interview ever for people. So yeah, Wajid, your view on Aston Martin and their driver lineup for 2023?
No, I think, to be honest, I don't think I think everything I would have said you've already covered. I think probably maybe the only driver lineup that could be more toxic, but that's because of off the circuit issues, is the Gasly Ocon lineup. I think and French drivers wanting to be the number one French. I think that's the only lineup that has more potential being toxic. I 100% agree. Aston, with all the money Lawrence Stroll has put into the Aston team, the hype after they bought Racing Point, we're bringing the Aston Martin back. We're bringing the British Racing Green back. They had Seb. Seb went to develop the car, and let's be perfectly honest. Last season, Seb outdrove, for the most part, Lance Stroll. It's just the team knew Lance was staying, Seb was leaving, so Seb ended up with some horrible awful strategy, some awful strategy.
Oh, look, we're leading the race. Yeah, but you haven't pitted them all on your arse.
Yeah, and then the slow, and then the Abu Dhabi one really sticks out because we're gonna stick Seb on a one stop. Yes, but every single person has gone to two because the tires are degrading quicker.
The worst part about that was Seb was quick that weekend as well.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he wasn't.
Yeah, he was genuinely like fourth, fifth quickest. Like, he was genuinely quick. No, we'll just leave it. We'll just leave him out there. We'll just leave him. Okay, cool. So anyway, I didn't even think about the LMP1 point with Aston and Le Mans. I think that's a very, very good point in terms of Fernando, because we all know Fernando wants that triple crown, regardless of what.
Well, he's got Le Mans already.
Yeah, but he wants the second one, doesn't he? Because everyone, for those who don't watch LMP1, like, it was a race between two cars and they were both Toyotas.
Yes, but it wasn't a race, was it? But Toyota knew what the progress for their brand that Fernando Alonso winning would bring, and it wasn't going to cost that team the championship in terms of the WEC championship to let Fernando win it. So they let Fernando win it.
Yeah. But anyway, if Lawrence Stroll is beaten by Fernando Alonso, there is aside. Obviously, we know his dad, but there is no reason for Lance Stroll to be on a Formula One grid anymore
I think
at all.
I get what you're saying, but I think obviously it can also be used as an excuse. Oh well, he got beaten by a two-time world champion.
But how many? I'm sorry. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate. How many excuses does this guy need? You got his ass kicked. You got his ass kicked by Bottas. You got his ass kicked by Seb. If he gets his ass kicked by Fernando in a team that he has been in
He beat
since he was,
Sorokin.
oh god, yeah, Sorokin, yeah, wow. In a team. Oh, and bear in mind, he also got his ass kicked by Sergio in a car where Sergio got a win in, and Sergio was consistently in the podium, regardless of it being a pink Merc or anything like that. He got that. That was a car capable of winning a crazy race like Sergio did in Bahrain,
Yeah.
Sakhir, whatever the hell you want to call it,
The oval.
the oval. And in fairness, it was probably one of the best races that year as well.
Yeah, true.
That's the irony. So if you beat Sorokin and you get your ass kicked by everyone else, do you deserve to be in a seat?
No, that's true. But then who do you stick in it? I suppose that's the next point. But
Yeah,
do,
but I think that's you.
go
But
on.
you got Drugovic. I remember his name. You got Drugovic rating in the wings. Aston have always had to rely on Nico Hulkenberg. You're never going to take out Lance Stroll for Nico Hulkenberg. Taking Lance Stroll out for the reigning F2 champion is a completely different conversation.
Yeah, I suppose what we also have to discuss is Lance Stroll has had a cycling accident, I believe,
Yeah, yes.
on the
Because
run up to his test. So
there's questions for there's questions about his fitness for the first race of the season. Never mind the test.
yeah, so for the test, Felipe Drugovich is going to come in on the first day and actually drive the car in the morning, I believe, with Fernando taking it over in the afternoon. Fernando obviously wanting the quicker conditions in the afternoon, because it does go into the dusk time, and we know that that's when you really got to start looking out for the times. But Felipe, it's a sensible choice in my book. You don't stick him, while they'd want the development of Fernando Alonso for 3 days, I don't blame them. You can't not stick Felipe in the car with the risk that he may have to drive the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Absolutely.
So that's really going to be a good start, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the test session as well. Just seeing that do you guys have any predictions for the team and drivers championship? We will get onto that very shortly. We will be doing a little bit of that now, and then there'll be a bigger podcast on about that later, probably next week after the test session, either at the weekend or after the test session. We'll get on to what we're going to do as a show a little bit later on in this podcast. But yeah, I think Aston Martin, a bit like AlphaTauri, they have to turn up this year, especially with the backing they have. AlphaTauri sort of get a bye because they're owned by Red Bull. Aston Martin have to turn up, because we've got to remember this is a team who, on no budget whatsoever, won Grand Prix and challenged for a championship as Jordan. I know that's a long time ago, but they're always a team that does well with a small budget. Give them a big budget, and it's not quite gone as well.
It's just niggly. It's just mistakes, though, isn't it? It's not like whether it's been personnel choice. It's been Lawrence Stroll. It's been literally caught with a tracing paper. But I'm 100%. I'm 100%. Like, nothing you've said, I disagree with. They have to make the jump this year. They can't be sat at the back challenging Williams as to who's the worst car this year. They have to. The form they showed towards the end of the season with Seb wringing the neck off that car, that's where they have to start the season and look to go forward.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Fernando gets on, obviously wringing the neck of a car which is slower than the Alpine. I think this is probably, probably the sort of lowest team he's been in since he
The,
was at
M-
McLaren.
this is the McLaren, yeah. It's just the
Yeah,
Honda McLaren.
the Honda McLaren, and we know that was not just to do with the engine these days. But moving on, we will move on to Alfa Romeo, Sauber, Audi, whatever you care to call it.
Porsche.
Porsche, yeah, could be Porsche. You never know. Here we are. We've got thanks to racefans.net for this picture because it took me a while to try and find one. But this is the best view I could find of the Alfa Romeo. Bit of a weird dippy nose on that. A lot of sawtooth on the floor, which was mentioned when it first come out. But apart from that, you've got what looks like an even bigger bulge on the side of the Alfa Romeo, and not really much of a cut on the side pod here. It still sticks out quite a bit. But in terms of the car and the livery, Wajid, what does this say to you?
I think it's really bad, isn't it? I think the liveries have been so poor this year that this is one of the higher rated liveries. And when you really think about it, it's just a plain black and red livery.
I'll be honest, I don't like it. I
Yeah,
honestly, I
you
prefer the
have
red
said,
and white.
yeah, no, I think last year's livery was so much nicer than this year's livery. It
Yeah.
really, last year's livery really popped. I don't know if it was either the Alpha or someone else that they had the cut side skirts and they were referred to as the Max Verstappen defenders.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, remember
so
the Alfa had a lot of people expected this for this year, but they had the Italian flag for a couple of races, didn't they? I think it was Baku.
yeah,
And it looked really nice, and we know why they've gone black, because a lot of teams have with the carbon sort of cutaway paint so that we don't have, so we go for less weight. I mean, what on earth? But the interesting thing a lot of people picked up on was T-bar. They've gone for the same T-bar which failed Guan Yu Zhou in Silverstone. So,
obviously they must have strengthened. They must have strengthened.
well, we
They
hope
must have
so.
strengthened. But you also need to remember, by the time you get to Silverstone, most teams are so far within their development stage anyway that, especially with the T-bar structure, if they were to change the T-bar structure, that's pretty much changing
Yeah.
the entire aerodynamics of the car. At that point, you redesigning the entire aerodynamics of the car. So even if the T-bar structure isn't up to scratch, anything like that, you're not redesigning the entire car by the time July comes around. It's just not happening. So I expect decent things. I expect decent things from Alpha. There's going to be a lot of eyes on them now for the next couple of years, given who they're potentially going to be bought by, all the names and things that could be brought into Alpha. So there's going to be a lot of hype around Alpha. And last year the driver pairing, they have a good driver pairing. I think Joe was very. I think everyone wants to talk about Fernando's luck. Joe was very unlucky in some of the situations he was in with the car and things like that. He showed he's not just a brand nor a name. He's a very competent driver. In Valtteri, you have a race winner, someone who's finished runner up as a champion and things like that, regardless of car situation, things like that. It's a strong driver lineup. They obviously both get on very well. If Alpha come with a decent car, I expect decent things from that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong driver pairing, and it's just whether money's going to be put into the development of the car or whether they're going to try and save budget towards 2026. It'd be interesting to see, where they want to put that budget, because we know what their profile is. It's to go with Audi in a few years' time. We've got 2 years of Sauber coming back, so it'd be interesting to see whether those years they cut the cloth a little bit like they did before, and we go back to the times when we had Ericsson, NASA, and people like that in the car just to fund it on its way. But yeah, not a lot to talk about with Alpha, to be honest. I don't think so.
Not
We'll
really,
we'll
no.
move along. They've kept quite stable. Obviously, Seidl's come in, but we spoke about that earlier on. Right. Now that looks a very stretched picture, but we'll go with it. McLaren, a team which have a lot of pressure on them for 2023, in my opinion. Underperformed hugely last year. I know Lando really got to grips with the car and pushed it forward, but in the start of the season, they were really struggling with brakes, which is where obviously Danny Rick is the strongest. I think his strongest race was probably Mexico, when they just went,
Yeah.
there you go, take the leash off. Even crashed, even ran into the side of Magnussen and still, didn't actually lose anything from the penalty there, I think. Drove really, really well. A lot of turmoil with the Oscar Piastri moments and stuff. It's going to be just quite interesting to see what happens with this, isn't it?
Yeah, I also, just to add on to that, I also think, because for all intents and purposes, Danny Rick is one of the most popular drivers on the grid. So I think the way, especially when you heard more and more stories about Danny Rick being at the technology center, crying in front of all the staff and apologizing, saying he's going to do better, only for Zach Brown to do what he did. I think McLaren really, really left a sour taste in a lot of F1 fans, and I think reputationally McLaren need to do a decent repair job this year, and obviously people will, if the results are good, people will forget. I think it's a big year. It's a big year. It's a big year for Lando. I also think it's a big year for Zach Brown as well because of how unceremoniously they got rid of they got rid of Danny Rick as well. So let's see what Piastri brings. I'm all about the Piastri hype train. I think he should have been in a race car last year. Let's see if he can back it up this year. Um, but what do you sort of what do you sort of think of what do you think of the lineup? What do you think of sort of everything with? Because I know your thoughts on Zach Brown, so you might as well share them to everyone else as well.
Helps if I unmute myself, doesn't it? The point is, you're on a different program, so you didn't know I was muted.
Yeah, I didn't know you're muted.
I I just think you've already mentioned it, the way they treated Daniel Ricciardo. They had already signed Oscar Piastri 2 weeks before. Absolute madness. Don't make a driver do that. All the IndyCar politics, the Oscar Piastri politics, it was a mess. It's been a messy 2 years for McLaren as a whole. And before that, you had the messy IndyCar Alonso not qualifying moment. So it's really not been a good time for McLaren. Even though Lando's obviously come along really, really well. But yeah, it's one of them where I think if they do a nice quiet season and really get down to business, that's fine. But we can't have a song and dance about Oscar Piastri. I actually will get on to opinions of seasons very soon, but you'll already hear from me now that I we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see because he hasn't done even a practice session in an F1 car yet. We don't know what he's like. Yes, his junior career is amazing, but it's exactly the same as Nico Hulkenberg's
Yeah,
in terms of championships won. And remember, Nico went off and won things like A1 GP as well, which was literally a spec series with countries, which was, yes, there's some dodgy drivers in that as well, but there was some brilliant ones as well. So it's a season where I'm sitting there thinking, well, we need to McLaren really need to just it's almost like I've said with Red Bull in the past. Have a weekend where you just shut up, do the business, and go home. McLaren need that for the first half of the season. Just turn up, win races, or not win races, but do well, and then go home. Don't stand there in press conferences going Oscar Piastri this, Oscar Piastri that, Lando this, no, just we all know what Lando can do. Let him get on and do it with a good car. Oscar Piastri, exactly the same. Let him just get on with it, because he's going to have to build himself in. If he gets to Australia or Spain and he's had a bad start to the season, don't start coming out going, oh, well, he's won this and he's won that, so he'll get there. We know with other drivers that they haven't done that before. So Oscar Piastri just needs to get his head down. He's done a lot of talking before he's even driven an F1 practice. He's done a lot of talking in terms of his contract, in terms of what he said about Alpine. Just Alpine have a good driver academy. There didn't feel like there's any graciousness between Oscar and the Alpine Academy when he left, and they did a lot for him. They got him to Formula One, and he's gone to McLaren, and I don't know, because there's a lot of pressure at McLaren. Like at Alpine, you've probably got Jack Doohan in the wings, but at McLaren, as we've already said, they have about 20 reserve drivers. It's ridiculous. They've got Alex Rossi, who we know can do business. He's done a few races in Manor. If they needed to ship him in the car, they could. Alex Palau, IndyCar champion. They've got Colton Herta is on their books. Jehan Deruvla, I know he's a Red Bull driver, but he's actually been testing an old McLaren on their old program, which they have, which a lot of drivers seem to use at the moment. They've just signed to be allowed to use Drugovic or Van Dorn in the car if they need a third driver.
No, Schumacher as well.
Oh, Schumacher, yes. Schumacher's been there for a seat fit down at Woking. So
yeah, because
Yeah.
I know they specifically asked, and there was a massive announcement that Mercedes and Merc are going to share Schumacher if they need a third driver.
I mean, we can hold our hands up now and say, yeah, well, the reserve drivers are only there if something goes wrong. But if Oscar Piastri starts having seasons like Daniel Ricciardo was having, and you've got all that talent there on a whim, you're going to try and plug the hole, aren't you? You're not going to let it flood for 2 seasons. And
of course you are.
And
They
how
are...
amazing would it be to have a Schumacher in a McLaren? After all them years, and especially Mick, as it's Michael's son and it's not Ralph or somebody, it would just be insane. But we probably said that about Schumacher being in a Williams, and Ralph was in there many years.
I think McLaren are Red Bull. McLaren give Red Bull energy without Red Bull success. No one says it. Like Red Bull, everyone remembers they ruthlessly cut Kvyat because of the noise Jos was making. They didn't want to get rid of Max, but with Max, it's worked out, hasn't it? Max has won 2 world championships. Red Bull finally won the constructors, things like that. You can say it was massively successful. With McLaren, where's the success? And the irony of it all is, like, Danny Rick is still your last winner. It wasn't Lando. For all the talk about Danny Rick's form, it's Danny Rick that won in Monza.
Yeah, I think we could say technically, I know this didn't happen, and it's harping back to the days of Max Verstappen's qualifying lap at Saudi Arabia was the best qualifying lap ever. That didn't happen. It's like, yeah, but it didn't happen. Norris would have won in Russia if it hadn't rained. He would have done. And to be fair, if he had pitted for Inters, he probably would have won as well. He would have,
but he made the decision.
No, I agree. But I mean, what was it? 2-3 laps from the end. So I can understand him making that decision. And he's, we look back at Lewis Hamilton. There's been times where he's made a mistake. I think maybe in qualifying for Monaco 2007, and he learnt very quickly that I'm not going to make that mistake again, because if I'm behind Fernando, I'm not going to be allowed to win the race. So
Yeah.
I think that's very much something that I think they've had to look at. But yeah, McLaren, I say, just need to be quiet, just need to get the job done. Don't come out with all the throw. They've had a filming day over in Bahrain, actually, and something interesting. This area of the car, which I will, circle here, has been blurred out on some of the videos. So it's going to be really interesting when they bring the car out the garage tomorrow and it's picked up on in some kind of way. So keep an eye on McLaren. They have gone, like they did with Honda, a very tight rear package. Look, I mean, the exhaust bulge is less than other cars. I mean, you never thought we were going to get into talking about bulges, did you? But it is a lot smaller there. But then there's a bit more of a sweeping cut on the and
Everyone,
it's less sort of downhill, shall we say? It's more gradual, isn't it?
the only two teams that don't look like a Red Bull are Ferrari and Merc.
Yeah,
Oh, and Alpha, because Alpha are essentially
yeah,
Ferrari 2.0. Everyone else has gone for the Red Bull look. I'll be honest. I, I, I know what you're saying. Especially with the amount of talent and things they have, and with all the internal changes they've had, McLaren need a big year this year.
yeah,
McLaren need that 2021 level year where they're there or thereabouts. Now I know what you're saying about Lando being unlucky and things like that. That's racing.
yeah,
That's racing. No one, if people go, oh yeah, Lando nearly won. The record books are going to say the last McLaren winner is
yeah.
Danny Rick. So
Agreed.
it's
And the
time to
last
put
McLaren world champion, Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton,
Yeah.
2008.
So people are
So
saying like Ferrari is struggling to get a world championship. At least they've been near the front to try and get one.
and what their last constructor title was.
2007.
No, because they got disqualified, didn't they?
True. So it'd be 2000 and
Three? No, yeah, 2000. No, 2000.
no, I think we're honestly
I think it's
looking back
90.
to
I
99.
think it's 99.
Yeah, I think it's 99. The last time McLaren won a constructors championship. Yeah, enough said there, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I mean. I give Ferrari a hard time about their lack of world titles and constructors, but like you said, at least now they're at the point where they have a realistic shot at a world title. They have a realistic shot at a constructors title. No one was saying McLaren. Everyone was saying Ferrari through the constructor title last year. When has McLaren even been in that
Yeah.
conversation?
No, I completely
So,
agree.
so no, I'm 100% with you. This year they need to push it up.
Yeah, it's certainly something McLaren, that they've been all guns blazing on the shouting, but they've only really had one car perform, and that's the one where Lando got some podiums and Danny Rick got the victory. The other cars haven't really performed, to be fair. So it's going to be a tough one for them, especially with all the stuff around Oscar Piastri. But next up we have, which I think should be some. I should get French national anthem playing, but no.
Da 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 da. There you go.
Thank you. We now look at the Alpine, which that's probably. Oh no, that's all right. We'll stick with that. I don't know what this
You've not got
plug is on the side.
You've not got the old pink version, have you?
No, I haven't, but we do have that coming very, very soon. So we'll go with what we've got for now. Alpine. I constantly say this last year, they underperformed. They had a mega car and it could have been on podium a lot more than. Well, it didn't get on there, but it could have been a lot better for them. Looks generally a bit of a shorter wheelbase this year. I'm not sure if it is or whether it's short at the front, but it does look like something's changed around the front area of the car. A lot of ridges for cooling down here, and what I believe it was Aston Martin who have got they've got a sloping side pod. They've blocked it off at Aston Martin, and it seems like Alpine have gone kind of similar here, where it drifts away at that point, but this carries on up, so it's like a channel to filter the air down to where they want it to go. It'd be interesting to see whether that works. Alpine, all French lineup, Pierre Gasly joining, finally taking the shackles off the Red Bull, off his ankles, and they have let him go. He's gone to Alpine, and he is now alongside the same person who he's had a tiff with over girlfriends in the past. Two guys who fought really hard with each other in karting as well. Looks all lovely at the moment in the videos, but is it going to spill out onto the track, Wajid?
Yeah, well, because I think out of every driver lineup, I think for both these guys, it is the it is the make or break season. I think whoever wins out of Gasly or Ocon is the one in line for that future big drive at a world championship car. Gasly had the opportunity, obviously, with Red Bull. Everyone knows how that played out. He went, re-established his reputation as an upper echelon driver. Obviously, last season was very, very poor. He's now finally out of the Red Bull shadow, as you said, and he's in the Alpine. With Ocon, he was sort of the next in line for that Merc seat, and then he was beaten by Sergio at Racing Point. Didn't establish himself the way I think Toto wanted him to, because I think Toto was still his manager at the time as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he had everything lined up for the Merc seat. He just didn't have the performances or the consistency, which is why now George Russell is in the seat and it's not Ocon. So for me, I think it will spill out, because I think, as I said, I think for both of them, they both know this is their last shot at sort of a world championship level team.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
And just to push it out there very quickly, one word: Gasly or Ocon to be the top driver in the team?
Gasly.
We agree then, because I actually do think Pierre's going to be a bit of a lethal weapon in this car, especially to the top teams, if it's as quick as they think. Obviously, BWT continue on board with Alpine, so the first 3 races of the season, we're going to see it in a full pink. Joys of that BWT branding coming on board, and then we'll be back to this livery later on. I get why they go with pink, but why you're painting cars twice, I don't quite get that. It's quite obvious BWT are there on that livery, aren't they?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. I think I'm so glad it's no longer on the Aston, by the way, because the way the Aston looks now compared to when they had the BWT branding, it's just night and day. And I think it's the same with the Alpine as well. I genuinely think like the color of that Alpine, that blue, that electric blue, I think it has all the potential to be a gorgeous livery. But that pink is just, you want to gouge your eyes out with that pink.
It did win Sergio Perez a Grand Prix, though. I don't think that was to do with the colours, but anyway.
I don't think it was to do with the colour.
But yeah, so
I think unless BWT made tracing paper.
So obviously, only going off what we're looking, Alpine, P4, or are we looking at them challenging the top 3?
Best of the rest.
Best of the rest.
That's the. I'll say they're going to be 2021 McLaren, where in some races they are genuinely up there on pace, but more often than not, they're like that half a second down.
Okay. We will move on. Obviously, we've got 3 teams left. So the first we go to is Ferrari. Now, I've got a few pictures of this Ferrari because we've got a few details we've seen on it as we go along. So whether Wajid's seen these details, I'm not sure, because obviously he's still probably a little jet lagged from coming back from his 46-hour return flight. Ferrari, we've gone a bit more black again, as all the teams have. It was a tyre muncher, a tyre eater last year. Do you think that's the main thing they have to get right? You know, I know the strategy went downhill, but do you think if they can get the tyres preserved, the strategy might not have been so bad?
No, because what was it? I think Azerbaijan sticks out to mind because in Azerbaijan, Red Bull didn't think they were going to win,
Yeah.
and then Red Bull were genuinely quick on race pace, but then that's when the Ferrari strategy collapse happened. Silverstone, Charlie Leclerc is still in the world title race. Why are you so adamant that Carlos Sainz needs a race win when you're chasing a world title?
Yeah.
Those are the two that currently stick to mind. I'm pretty sure they had a cock up in Monza, which
Brazil
totally
as well.
forgotten about as well. Brazil as well. So, and look, yeah, Brazil they weren't going to win because the Mercs were just genuinely quick that day, but it was just I think it was 15 straight races where there was a mistake. And bear in mind, I think, and also, it's the largest lead, even though it was 3 races. It's the largest lead someone has blown in a world title race. I think something stupid like 30 years or something stupid like that.
Something like that.
And
Yeah.
obviously, I know the point. Obviously, I know the point scoring is massively different with 25 and things like that. So, you know, history is not fair, but there were 2 races ahead of Red Bull. There were 2 races ahead of Red Bull after 3 races. To let that slide, not only slide, but if the Mercs and especially Lewis had some level of luck during the year, because Lewis got very unlucky with safety cars and stuff. Silverstone, the big one sticking to mind, because I think Lewis wins in Silverstone if it wasn't for the safety car.
Yeah.
Ferrari could have genuinely been the first team to start with the quickest car and still finish third in the constructors. So I think it was more than just strategy and stuff. I think they didn't, for a team that's, I feel like this is a rant, but for a team that's been so ruthless about having a genuine number 1 and number 2 driver, to not back Charles when Charles was clearly the better driver last year, when they needed to, completely insane. The strategy goes completely insane. Yes, that car, he was eating tires and stuff, but that car was genuinely quick, and to finish the way it did, it's very, very poor. And I don't think that the main challenges of Red Bull this season. I think it's that all black Darth Vader car that we'll get to later on. I don't think it's these guys, and especially with, they've got obviously the new things like the S duct that the FIA are looking into and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've tried some innovations. We'll see what happens with the front wing, because that's going to be very, very interesting also. For those of you that don't know, Ferrari, when they've brought out the livery design, they've essentially stuck on the same front wing that the Mercs had banned for the last 3 races. So if that's allowed, that's going to raise a bunch of eyebrows and issues also. Ferrari need to be ruthless this year. The big thing is Ferrari need to be ruthless this year. And I'm going to put this to you as on top of everything else. Do you believe their driver pairing is stronger than the Mercs and the Red Bulls? Or do you believe their drivers are stronger than the lead drivers of Red Bull or Merc? Let's put it that way.
I think probably not stronger than the lead drivers, but I do think they're both capable of winning a championship if things go the right way. Are they strong enough to drag results out? Leclerc might be if he sorts himself out, but you know, you look at what was the last France was probably a race where his championship went, in my opinion, and I really think he was a better chance at that point. But spoiler alert, I think Wajid's done this, but this is the F duct that they're on about, which is the air coming in here and being directed in a certain way. And as you can see, the side pod really does have a big, you know, I mean, Christ knows what it's going to do in wet races, collecting all this water. Where's it going to go? I don't know. But Ferrari will have to start mopping up very quickly there. But they also have this front. Oh, no, that's the Dart Destroyer. They also have the front wing here, which, as we said, was a Mercedes back type of front wing, and it'd be interesting to see what happens in terms of the FAA with there. But I do think Leclerc, if Leclerc can mentally sort himself out, he's a championship contender. If Seitz can get the consistency, he's a championship contender, because I think he mentally does have the strength. But we'll just have to see. And Fred Vasseur coming in, let's see what happens with him, because he's got to be given a year or two at least. You can't be sacking him again at the end of the season if it doesn't go to plan, really, because he hasn't actually had a strong Formula One team to lead before.
If Ferrari aren't competing for the world title out of the box, is it a disappointing season?
What, for us or them?
No, them. Just
for them.
In your opinion, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think they've got to be trying to look at doing that, but I think they just need to be competitive, and then develop as quickly as Red Bull did. That's the thing. Like, if they slowly start slow but develop better, then I think that's better than what they did last year. I think last year they had a mega car and didn't make use of it in the early races. And, you know, I mean, we could see how Charles can drive, for example. I mean, look at that. Look at the thinking in Bahrain. As soon as you put pressure on Max, he wasn't thinking. And Charles knew exactly what to do with the DRS, which we'll get into DRS's, you know, late in another show, because there's a few changes for that coming up. But yeah, I think Ferrari really need to just almost knuckle down and just bang out some results to start off with, and see where they are as they come along. And we'll see whether this F duct does anything useful. We'll see. Mercedes. Now, this is the best livery I've seen this season, and I wasn't a big fan of the black livery. Just to quickly fill in there, Seaman, it's not DRS rules. There's just more DRS and areas and stuff, which we'll obviously get into each track we go to. But
there's more zones this year to help with the overtaking,
which they shouldn't do. They should be just taking them away, because these cars should be better at it. But you know, we'll get to that at another point. Mercedes, I wasn't a massive fan of the black Mercedes in the first place, but this car coming out just looks the part. It looks mean. It looks ready to go. You know, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the green for Russell, but the yellow looks brilliant for Lewis. And they've gone for the cut side pod again. So, but I am hearing that Lewis, when he tests the car in Bahrain, could have almost a completely different side pod on the car to when George tests it. So, be interested to see what happens there.
So they're not gonna go. They're doing the exact same thing they did last year.
Well, the plan is for this. This is the plan, but they want to test Plan B, is what we're being told.
The irony is that the irony of it all being that the original car they brought to Bahrain was quicker than anything they brought. It was quicker than the second version.
Yeah.
So, if that car, because the way they developed, once they got to sort of the main cause of what the problem was of that car, the way they developed and found speed in that car should be pretty terrifying for the rest of the grid. Albeit, you know, Red Bull already wrapped up the world title and things like that. But the way they left Ferrari in the dust towards the end of last season was crazy. As you said, it's a gorgeous car. The sort of zero side pod concept just makes it look even more gorgeous, to be perfectly honest, even aesthetically. You've mentioned this to me earlier, so massive shout out to you because I hadn't mentioned, but I'll mention it now. The way they've used the halo for their aerodynamic purposes is very, very different compared to most people.
There we
go. Yeah, thank you.
Spoiler.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, they've got essentially they're using the entire sort of sausage structure of the halo all the way across for more airflow and to help with the aerodynamics of the car. And I think this year we are going to see a different Lewis Hamilton. I think he was unlucky. I think he was unlucky last year. Regardless of how well George started the season, when the story started coming out of, well, Lewis was doing all the testing, Lewis had the extra sensors, Lewis' car was heavier for the first five to six races. When all that stopped, you could still genuinely see that Lewis Hamilton is a notch above George Russell. I think the experience is going to help George, but if Lewis isn't used as a test dummy this year, I think we're going to see a totally zoned in Lewis Hamilton. I think we're going to see, if the car is there, I think we're going to see a very, very scary Lewis Hamilton this year.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, as Wajid was explaining, the sausage carries on down. And the weird thing is obviously everybody else has this sort of dip in the side pod, whereas Mercedes have it pretty much on the top of the airbox. So it's going to be quite interesting. The rear view is a bizarre rear view. I didn't manage to find an image of it, but it's a bizarre rear view for Mercedes. I think I do have. No, that's not the one. That's last year's car. We'll get on to that. But yeah, the Mercedes in general looks good. They've gone this rounded nose. Williams keep publishing out, so it's going to be interesting to see. Lewis Hamilton hungry for that championship. Would he retire on 8? I still don't think he would. I think he's so hungry, it's ridiculous.
So I thought about this because I thought this question might come up. I think Lewis is waiting till there's a race in Africa.
Yeah.
I think if he race, I don't think he is bothered about the 8th, but I think if you give him a win in Kyalami along with all his statistics, I think he retires after that. That's what I genuinely believe.
I also think, with testing coming up over the next 3 days, people, remember Mercedes love to run a slow tyre. So don't give all the shout out to, they're really slow, they're bouncing about. They like to run their own program. They're not there for outright pace normally, apart from the last day.
Well, it's already started, hasn't it? Because people saw the video of Hamilton bouncing, and they're like, "Oh my God, they've not got rid of the porpoising," and it's like, no, Silverstone is just generally quite a bumpy track. I don't think that's porpoising.
Also, it's a filming day. The car's not going to be going quick enough in the rain to make it like that. I do love the little picture of Bono in the car coming alongside the Mercedes, going, "Don't you dare bounce." But that is a great one. But yeah, moving on swiftly, as you saw before. So very quickly, Mercedes Championship challengers.
Yes, I think Mercedes are
Lewis or George.
Lewis.
Okay, and if George needs to play number 2, will he?
No.
Interesting. Okay, we have the same opinion.
I think he has to be. I think he has to be mathematically out of it for him to start playing number 2.
Okay. Well, we'll see. And next up, the 2022 Red Bull. Red Bull with a huge launch to announce that Ford. Yes, you're going to say it's the worst one ever, aren't you?
That's the weirdest car launch I've ever seen. What the flip as a ski? I don't care about the skiing world champion. What's he got to do with the car?
Yeah,
anyway,
no, I completely agree. Dragged on forever, and then turned around and went, here's our car, and it's not this year's car. The only thing which I've noticed on this model is that bulge for the exhaust, which obviously, if it wasn't there, people would know about it not being. But the rest of it seems to be this year's car. Livery hasn't changed. Number one still on the car, and the only news really we had from that was that Ford are going to come back on board with Red Bull. Now, me and you've talked about this off stream. Last time Ford were involved in Formula One, I think they were involved sort of with Williams and people like that. But the last time I can really remember them was Stewart, and then going to Jaguar, and then Jaguar went terribly wrong, so they sold to Red Bull. So you're just getting back into the fire pit that you got out of. But they're not known for, well, they were in the Tyrrell days known as a team you'd have an engine supply with, but they're not really known for their success in Formula One, are they really? I mean, the last one, I think, being Jordan 2003 in Brazil when Fisichella won, and ironically, he won with the car on fire because the engine caught fire in the pit lane.
Yeah, and the other reason he won was because of countback as well.
Well, yeah, but technically within the rules, he won.
No,
and
no,
he might have won anyway if the accident didn't happen, but the car set on fire. It was literally, I mean, it was literally on fire.
Yeah, the Cosworth engine, that it's always been branded as Ford Cosworth, because for those who don't know, Cosworth is the sort of power badge of the Ford brand. Well, not like AMG for Mercedes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the last time Ford were in there were the Ford Cosworth engines, and like you said, yeah, the last time they got a win was with Fisichella. The last time they were on the podium, I believe, was with Thiago our favorite Jordan reference point, Mr.
Yeah, I think it possibly was.
Thiago Montero. Now, everyone's going to say, oh, but they got a podium. Yeah, just look at where Jordan were that season, and that'll give you all the answers as to how good that engine is.
Also who they actually beat in that race.
Yeah. So, and for anyone who doesn't know the race, just go back and watch the race.
Yeah, no, I would not suggest watching the race. I would just suggest watching Paul Stoddard's rant to Dutch TV, I think it was. And he goes, can I swear? And they went, say what you want. And then they couldn't really put out on a live feed the rest of the interview.
So so that's the last time Ford were in. The last time they were probably semi-successful, like you said, was the Stewart engine. It was the Stewart team, sorry, not the Stewart engine. Because I wouldn't. They got a win with Fisichella, but I wouldn't say it was a successful period with Jordan. I'd say Stewart was the semi-success, because
but at that point they were sort of helping Jordan stay afloat, if anything. At that stage,
but it wasn't. Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'd like I said, I'd say that's the last time they were semi-successful. So it's an interesting risk for Red Bull to take, given that they've got the quote unquote Red Bull powertrain, when, let's be honest, is just a Honda.
The Rupiter.
The Rupiter. So it's an interesting, there was so much talk of Porsche and things like that, so it's a very, very interesting. But this is the car to beat. It's the car to beat. It's the driver to beat. Max is going to go for a very, very select number of people who've won 3 in a row. There's no point. The only reason I'd mention Sergio Perez is I'm going to be involved in this. I'm going to be setting up the Sergio Perez sweepstakes as to when Danny Rick takes that seat, to be perfectly honest. Because I don't think Sergio sees out. The season. I think that Max playing silly beggars in Brazil is the start of the deterioration of that relationship. Because Sergio has always played happy number 2, happy to be here, things like that. I somehow don't think Mr. Perez is going to be as reciprocating this year as he has been in previous years.
It'll be interesting to see because obviously we know when Multi 21 happened how Webber suddenly didn't want to play ball, etc. But I kind of agree with you. I think Perez will probably be a driver who sees out the season, but where he goes from there, probably into retirement from Formula One anyway. I can't really see him going back to a midfield team. He may as well end on a Red Bull contract. But yeah, I just think possibly just can I see Danny Rick getting the car, or would Nick de Vries maybe be the choice as we mentioned earlier by Red Bull? Who knows? But Max will be the man to beat, of course. And whatever 2021 people say, 2022 was, that was Max's championship, no doubt. And the car was absolutely in there. So next up, we will obviously go on to a slightly different screen. I'll just sort it out first. So we'll go back to this first. Thank you, Storm, for popping into the chat with your normal comment. Wajid's not seen that one before.
No.
Don't worry, that's his friendly greeting. We will bring up if we can find it. We will bring up. I've just got to find the page for it. We've got livery watch. So if I bring that up, bring that onto. Yeah, go stick your light on.
I'm gonna slice on here, cheers.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just making it so we can actually do this livery thing without the sponsors around the outside and God knows what.
Williams S tier, please. Dave, you got a request?
Yes, he will request that because he works for Williams. So that will be nice and easy for him to request that. But yeah, I don't think he'll. Oh, that's gone off the side of the page. Just bear with us. This is a bit which we will probably cut out of the podcast. Because it's clear. No, it's because you work for him, Matty. I'm not stupid. Right, a bit more off. I should have cropped this ages ago, but because we keep changing screens, it's a bit more. A bit more. There we go. So that will probably be the same from the bottom as well. Hey, and then we can go that far inside there, and that side far inside there. There we go. That looks better. I will just place that in, and then hopefully, we can even make that a bit bigger now, can't we? That's what she said.
That's what she hoped more like.
After AlphaTauri and Red Bull, that's going to be questionable. So we're going to go to livery rating system. So here we go. This is the liveries we have for the. Hang on a second. Yeah, just checking it's working. So we've got a livery rating system. We want you guys to help us in the chat. So we want your opinions too, but this is going to be like sort of our rating system. So we're going to go from S to D in terms of our comments. So first up, we're going to go with Haas. Now I'll put it in B for now, so we know which one it is. Haas livery kind of 1990s Tyrrell we said before. We kind of like it. Also, just to be clear, we have 5 sections. I'm going to force us to have 2 in each. So we'll do it first, and then we'll go 2 in each. So, Haas, where do you see Haas, chat? And also, Wajid, where do you see it?
I think B is the perfect place for it.
Okay.
For
We've
me
got
anyway.
Matty saying B for boring, and we've got Seaman saying C for, well, crap, maybe. I don't know.
Outright crap. Yeah, I think B's are. I'm thinking about all the liveries.
Well, we can move things round. So if we have the Haas on B, and then we can sort of judge it from there, can't we? We can move things around a little bit. So next up, we will go for Alfa Romeo. Do you think that's better, worse, or the same as a Haas?
I think it's worse.
You think it's worse? Anybody on Alfa
I'm
Romeo?
I'm gonna get some heat for that.
I don't know, because I think it's worse. Matty, A, beautiful. C for C. Oh, okay. So we've got an A and a C.
So that averages out to a...
So that averages to B, but we're going to have
You're the deciding vote, mate.
Well, I'll leave it in B for now, and we'll see who else comes up.
That's safe. Boo.
Hang
Boo,
on.
that's safe.
I would go lower, but we'll see.
There we go.
Alpha Tauri.
D.
I'm afraid...
Maybe even lower.
For me...
What we going? S to D or S to F?
S to D. So S is super,
Yeah.
D is
D.
terrible.
D.
I am afraid I'm going to overrule some in chat, which we've had A, Z, and D. So, I mean, it could be anywhere. But I am going to overrule some, and it's going to go there because it's terrible. And if you watch any of the rest of it, it is terrible. So
thank you. Oh my God.
We're going to go there with that. I'm sorry. What's nice about it, please? People in chat who are saying it's nice. What's nice about it? Apart from it's got a bull on it. Yeah, but what? You can't say everything. We want to know. What are you saying is nice about this car? Next up, we will go... Which we'll do while we know Matty's here. Williams.
C.
You go C for Williams, do you?
It's boring. It's boring.
Do you not enjoy the Duracell battery like everyone else did? I would say.
Matty, there's no need. Matty, there's no need for that language. Come on.
I would say
child-friendly shoulders.
Yeah, I would say the blue and white and red fit perfect. Oh, this is the blue, white, and red on the Alpha fit perfectly. Would you like to borrow these? Christ, I think personally the Williams is better than the Alpha.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I think it's more because I do that.
So that...
For now.
All right, fine.
For now.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, fine. I forgot what half the rest look like, so...
Yeah. The next up, we will go for everybody's kind of favourite, Aston Martin. Now, I'm not a huge fan because it's getting a bit boring now.
Is that okay? But is that better than the Williams?
I don't know because I am not like a racing green. I liked it for a season, and then I'm like, And no, Matty, we're not going to just please you in here because you don't paint the car. So, what's your opinion on the Aston Martin? Do you like it?
I've always liked the Aston because
Okay.
it's because I was things I must like green's one of my favorite colors, so like
So
I'm always gonna be
where
fine.
would
I'm
you
gonna be
put
right.
it?
I'd put it ahead of the Williams. It's not as good as the
So
Alpha, but
if we go A first for now,
no,
no.
no. I'd put
So
the
you'd do
Alpha in
that.
A. Yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Come on, stick to your guns. Just
No,
because
no,
we've
that's
got
what I would.
just
No,
for
no, no, no,
once in
no.
our lives, we got chat.
No. That I'm saying that's what I would do.
Okay.
Because I forgot what the rest look like. I forgot what the rest look like.
For next, we have McLaren, papaya and blue and black and whatever else they want to stick on the car.
Z. No.
Wow,
No,
you don't. You hate papaya.
nah, no, Dres, this is McLaren. This is McLaren. I don't like at all. Previously, it's been nice. I don't think it's a nice looking.
Okay, we got an A. We got A's. Oh, a possible S, a D.
Possible S. There's at least 4 different. No chance.
Okay.
No chance.
I'm
That
think-
is. It's not as bad. It's not for me. It's not as bad as the. It's nowhere near as bad as the. I think the AlphaTauri is the worst one on the grid.
Yeah.
What have we got? What?
Then we got Alpha
what's
and
in-
Williams.
It's better than the. It's better than the. I think it's better than the Alpha. It's not as good as the Williams.
So you would put technically
No,
there.
Yeah. Leave everything. Hang on. It's me that's getting persecuted here at this moment.
No,
You have some opinion
no,
as well.
no. I'm kind of. I think with McLaren is a bit messy. So I'm with you on that. I think it's a bit too messy, a bit too sponsor board, shall we say?
Yeah, because it's black, and then
So
they've given a 5-year-old a sticker patch and gone put the stickers where you want.
Storm Matty does work in McLaren. That's in Williams. That's why. Right. Next up, we have 2 liveries to judge.
Hang on. Can we just get to the Merc and just stick that straight to the S, please? Like, there's no point. There's not even a discussion point, is it? Can we just stick the Merc straight into the S?
Okay.
And then everything else we can agree.
No,
with.
no. We'll save that. We'll save the space. We're going to go for the pink Alpine. The pink Alpine, which we will get for 3 races this season. Where does that go in your ranks? Now, I personally, like we said it earlier, I don't see the point. Like, the pink is prominent on the Alpine anyway. Why do we need to have a completely pink car?
It's an ugly looking thing.
Well, we've gone S, we've gone, a C. The A was for Merc, so.
It's an ugly. I like the blue. The pink is just gaudy. The pink is just really gaudy.
Do we really? Do we put it here?
What liveries are to come? There's the blue Alpine. There's there.
So we put that in. Ooh, so we're saying are we saying the Alpine in pink or the AlphaTauri is worse?
The AlphaTauri is worse.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can agree.
The AlphaTauri is just dull.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with Alpine, the blue and pink. Ironically, so we'll pop the blue and pink in on B. Normal Alpine livery. I mean, I think it's kind of iconic now. You know, it's one of them liveries you'll look back on, but it's also kind of like...
Yeah, but hang on. Iconic is Vodafone McLaren.
Yeah, I
red and
kind of
white.
mean like the Renault that Alonso won in. It's not a nice livery. It's not the yellow and blue. It's decent, but it's nothing
Yeah.
special. But you're looking at it and you're going, Well, I'll remember that one. And because Alpine come in and they had VWT, you know Alpine to have the pink side pods.
Yeah, but then that's this on the same thinking. The Aston is quote unquote iconic because it's the Aston color. That's the same principle, isn't it?
I would like to add in the point we've had from Adam. Adam, good to see you again. They should do a BAR 99 and put a zip down the middle and split it half and half. Which I've got to say, I love that livery now. These days, I love it.
Now you do. No one loved it at the time.
I love it so much. I have a muddle of it. But yeah, where are we putting the Alpine? Is it better than the Williams?
No.
So technically, we've probably got Williams coming back up here. Alpine down, McLaren.
Oh, that's better than the McLaren.
Better than McLaren. So we're playing McLaren there. Okay, next up we've got the Mercedes.
S.
D.
Just
I'm not sure the Mercedes can go high enough myself.
Just there. There's no. There's no.
You know, I think everybody looked at it and just went.
Yeah. Do you think that's more because the rest of the liveries were just so meh, rather than
Possibly. I'm going to have words with you, Seaman. These opinions are very questionable. Not for you, but you like the AlphaTauri. I think you're trolling. Next up, Ferrari. I mean, it's Ferrari. I'd put it at least A.
You know, I was debating between A. I'll be honest, I was debating between A and S.
Well, I suppose it depends if we end up having to put 2 in each one, but yeah, it definitely goes in there. I think.
It's better than it's better than it's S.
Yeah.
It's S. It's S. The Ferrari's an S.
And fine, just having a look, we've got S's and A's. So
The Ferrari's an S.
Yeah,
because it's better than it's definitely better than the Red Bull. It's not as good. Like the Merc is the clear. The Merc is clear.
Yeah. Red Bull. I mean, you can check what Red Bull looked in 2009, and it's pretty much just the same. So I don't know which picture they actually put on the stage.
I'm debating whether it's better than the AlphaTauri, the Alfa Romeo or not.
Wow. So at this moment in time, you're judging it to be here, roughly.
I can't see what cars we've got.
Sorry, we've got Mercedes, it's Haas, Aston, and Williams.
Sorry, I meant the Haas. I thought it was the.
It's going a maximum in height up there for you. So it's going
it's
in.
Not. It's nowhere near as nice as the Ferrari or the Merc.
Wow, we've got a Red Bull is worse than AlphaTauri. Wow, I'm not sure that can happen.
So hang on. So for me anyway, the Merc is like clear S. Then it goes Ferrari. If we're going 2 in every tier, then the Ferrari goes into S.
Yeah.
Then the AT is where the debate is, because the Red Bull, this year's Red Bull is not nowhere near an A tier.
Haas?
No. The rest are just.
I mean, that's technically, if we're not doing 2 in each tier, that's what we've. That's what we've decided. So that is our livery tier. So we've got Mercedes in S, Ferrari in A, Red Bull, Haas, Aston, and Williams in B. Alpine's current livery, McLaren and Alfa in C, and then down at the bottom we've got the pink Alpine and the clothing brand. It's quite ironic that the clothing brand can't get it right.
No, but that's what I said.
Yeah,
it's a fashion brand.
But yeah, so
Do you know what? I'm happy. I do you know what? I'm happy with that.
I'm quite happy with that.
Forget chat. I'm happy with that.
If I was going to go two in each, personally myself, I would go Ferrari,
Yeah.
Haas.
Yeah. No. See there. This is where the pause. This is where the pause is. It's the exact same. This is the exact same thing. I was stuck. Yeah. Go on. Go on.
Honestly,
You're gonna say Williams, aren't you? Yeah. I know. Yeah. I knew it.
just because the Aston Martin is, it's just got so normal now, kind of thing. But then I'd have Aston ahead of Red Bull because and I'll tell you why why I think Red Bull can do better. If you ever saw them when they launched, they had a lovely thing that just looked. It was blue and silver squares like the cans, and it looked brilliant on the cars.
But the thing is, like, even Red Bull's like testing livery. Do you remember the white and black camouflage livery they had? That was beautiful. And then the special one-off white one they had.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous.
And they had the ones where the fans put pictures on the cars. I was on Mark Webber's car when he won the Grand Prix at Silverstone, and it was just that little bit lighter and things like that. But for me, the thing is with Red Bull is they could do so much more. Like the Red Bull can, like, yes, okay, the only way you know it's Red Bull and they get any brief from it is one, the massive Red Bull, and splashing the words Red Bull across it. It's a bit like the tick with Nike or Nike or however you want to say it. When you've got the tick and you've got Nike below it, after a while you take away Nike and you know what the tick is.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of branding. Red Bull still have to paint on the front of a car Red Bull because you don't know. And if you had that can livery, you could just change the squares every now and again. So, right, we're going to do the sugar-free one this time, light blue. We're going to do the one which they had on the pit wall in Spain, green. It's
green.
Tropical. We can have orange. They could advertise everything. But then AlphaTauri would have to stick a coat and a hoodie on their bloody car. The problem I have with Red Bull is that they have to sort of make people talk about them. That's the problem because it's all about
Helmut Marko does a fine enough job at that, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. But if your brand is that big that it's Red Bull and you still have to write the words Red Bull,
yeah.
You're not doing a good job marketing wise.
Yeah, so you would go Williams in it.
I think I would just go Williams because the thing with the Williams is it's good. It's got a mixture of colours, but it's clean. If you get what I mean.
Mine again, like I said, because
Aston Martin.
one of my favorite colours is green. That's the only change.
To be fair, it's so close between them three teams that I wouldn't complain at that being our thing. I think those six.
I think those six are. But I do think those six are clear.
Yeah.
And then
the
rest is the rest are just.
The Alpine, if it was all blue and black, I'd like. The McLaren just looks messy at the moment. It could be a lot better. The Alpha I prefer white.
The Alpha is so overrated. The Alpha is so overrated.
The Alfa Romeo I'd rather have white. The pink, it's got a bit boring now.
Yeah.
And the AlphaTauri.
And the less said about the AlphaTauri, the better.
Well, I guarantee. Well, what we're going to do also is once we see these cars on track, we're going to be doing a testing review. We will be able to judge this, come back to this, and go, oh, what did we think? Do we still, now we see them on track, think exactly the same? I don't think it's going to change about the AlphaTauri. I'm afraid to say to the supporters in the chat, and please don't unfollow because we've said this, but I don't think our opinion's going to change. I really don't. I think I just think it's. But I think the problem is AlphaTauri have had some good liveries, and there's the problem that they've come out with that thing, and you're sitting there going, I'm not really sure about that, but.
Yeah.
That is generally, I think, the problem we've got with the AlphaTauri.
That's nice. I finally got to piss off a bunch of people. This is what it feels like.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
Right. So I think we should quickly, because this podcast is. This is what.
Oh
this
yeah,
is what I meant
this
about
is
the waffle.
nice. It's like 3 hours long now.
Yeah. So let's quickly get into testing. Let's get into what's to come, and I think we should.
Already unfollowed. Already unfollowed after we put D instead of and did put Red Bull on A. Okay, nice knowing you. Anyway, like Wajid said, we're going to move on to testing. To be honest, we can't say a huge amount because we haven't seen cars running on track yet. But obviously, testing. Go on.
No, sorry, no, I keep on cutting you. My apologies.
That's all right. Go on.
More than likely, we will have a testing video on the weekend. We're still kind of toing and froing about that. But yeah, I think the only thing Dave was going to say about testing, and like I said, my massive apologies. Testing begins in Bahrain tomorrow, 6 a.m. UK time, because Bahrain are 3 hours ahead of us. And we'll like I said, we'll see what comes up of testing.
Yeah.
I don't think, as Dave said, I wouldn't put much into it. When no one's gonna know the sort of true order of the cars till a week on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. And we will go through what happened in testing. It won't be 3 hours long, trust me. And actually most of them won't be 3 hours long, more like an hour and a half. We're just waffling on a little bit because we missed so much over the winter. We tried to cram it into one show because we've got a packed schedule ahead. To let you know, obviously it's on Sky Sports, whether it's on F1 TV for companies that any company that aren't in UK, not 100% sure, so hopefully you'll be able to tune into it. It is.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, it is. So it's on F1 TV, it's on Sky Sports. Tune in and enjoy the testing, and hopefully we'll be able to give you some kind of idea of what we really want. We should be doing one on Saturday. If testing does turn out to be absolute drab, we might pass on that and do something else. Next week we'll be doing a preview to the Bahrain Grand Prix, the opening race of the Grand Prix season, and we hope to do previews and reviews throughout the season, along with a few extra little videos. Especially in April, we'll be filming a hell of a lot, which will be going on YouTube and a bit on Twitch as well. I haven't quite decided because we're going to be filming so much that I'm kind of thinking we don't want to constantly be live on Twitch for them. So what we might do is do some offline and post them and put them as premieres on Twitch as well. We'll see how things go. But if you have any questions, obviously, if you're on Twitch, feel free to message us in the chat. If you have any on YouTube, feel free to put them below. Any opinions, anything you would like to see on the channel, feel free. On Twitch, give us a follow. On YouTube, give us a sub. I have to thank Wajid for joining us on this little journey that we're going to be going on. I will be putting Wajid onto the list below for his Twitter and things like that, so you can get in touch with him without going through the middleman. If you want to, and you'll probably all message him and go, how the hell do you put up with him? And my socials will also be in the link below on the YouTube channel. So it'd be really interesting to see how we get on. But for now, that is it for the podcast, and we will stop, and we'll move on to testing in Bahrain. Who will be quickest? Who will take on the challenge of Max Verstappen and Red Bull? And more to the point, Will that budget make up for more cakes for Red Bull in the 2023 season? We just do not know. But one thing we do know is we'll be here to talk about it, whatever happens. So for now, we won't be ending the stream on Twitch, but this is the end of the YouTube video. Thank you for joining us, and especially if you've managed to get through the whole 3 hours, because we won't waffle this much in future. But from Wajid and myself, it is good night.